There was no development, no new development that warranted the rescission motion in the last month's meeting. The planning board had not yet decided, so there was no reason for a rescission motion at the last month's meeting to go ahead to overturn what the councillors had decided in August, which was to negative section 68. The second reason is community opposition. Whilst there's a vocal minority calling for this, last year DA's put in for a seawall at Wombrel, another mid-term to long permanent construction. 3,200 Central Coast residents put in opposition to that. Instead of starting from a place of a permanent structure needs to be erected, an alternative approach could be to go to the community about the validity of a structure at all. For I note that in the secondary motion that was passed in that September meeting, the statistical survey requirement that was originally in there was removed. This is a blatant affront and at best an oversight, and at worst a disregard for the will of the people of the Central Coast. The council should know better, especially now with elected councillors with full powers.
Excuse me, Matthew, I'll give you another minute.
Thanks, mate. Third is the scientific opposition around the world to sea walls. Sea walls can work in some instances. However, serious scientific opposition has grown in consensus that sea walls or even vertical rigid terminal protection structures, however you want to slice their name, are not always the best option for preventing coastal erosion or increasing sand deposits and dune regeneration, but rather the opposite. I'd suggest to councillors that they should consider exploring offshore sand nourishment mechanisms like artificial sandbanks and artificial reefs as medium to long-term structures to encourage sand deposit across our entire beautiful Central Coast coastline, not just limited to Wombrel. This is an alternative to the short-sightedness of seawalls. It's for these reasons I urge you councillors to please listen to your own decision you made back in August and just stick with that one. Thanks.
Thanks, Matthew. Matthew, just any questions for Matthew before he sits down? No. Okay, Matthew, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Next speaker on the agenda tonight is Joy Cooper, speaking on the presentation of 2024-25 financial statement and related auditor's report. Thanks, Joy.
Thank you. And I do go over a little bit of the 3 minutes, so but I guarantee it's under the 4 minutes. I stand here tonight to speak about more than a decade-long failure of planning and vision. The Performing Arts and Cultural Precinct, known as the PAC, for Gosford and the Central Coast. This is a failure of foresight that continues right up to this evening. I'm speaking specifically to the proposed sale of the Broadwater site, the Broadie, as some know it. I refer to the document Central Coast Council Notes to the Financial Statement 30th of June 2025 on page 34 of 91 of this document, and it states, these assets have been deemed excess to Council's operational requirements and were available for sale and actively marketed as at the 30th of June 2025. This premise is precisely what I challenge. The Performing Arts Centre site is not excess, it's a confirmed necessity. The Our City, Our Destiny 2010 Master Plan was an extensive, awarded winning consultation that was clear. Gosford needed a major cultural asset, that the community supported vision designated the Gosford school site as the preferred location. Yet due to inaction from the then council, the prime site was shamefully sold off, where the Performing Arts Centre should have been. We now have a tax office and private development. Since then, the PAC has been chased around the chessboard, so to speak, with each potential site being lost due to poor management or forethought. It's been like a perpetual game of whack-a-mole. We were first offered the poorly thought through site of Poppy Park, which was simply far too small and flooded. Next, we were told the Leeds Club field was the answer, but it was clearly unsuitable because of flooding and some other reasons as well that I'm sure some of the directors are aware of. After multiple locations were lost, we finally landed on the Broadwater Hotel site. This site was superior, it was elevated, big enough and offered two-street access. Crucially, the vision included future-proofing Gosford, plus 73 and 75 Man Street sites were purchased to create a vital community corridor connecting the Performing Arts Centre from the Gosford Regional Gallery. This planning corridor would have allowed for shared car parking, creating an activated Gosford Centre we were promised. Now, with Gosford's projected huge population increase, councillors must answer the community. Why is the Broadwater site, the last viable, well-planned site, being sold off? The failure of planning goes deeper. There was no study commissioned by the council when the Gosford Council Chamber closed to assess the negative effects.
Excuse me, Joy, you've got another minute.
Yep.
Thank
Of
you.
surrounding CBD businesses. Now you are asking us to accept a situation where the council is renting premises elsewhere while simultaneously planning to sell the former council chamber. Furthermore, if the Gosford TAFE doesn't remain on its current site and it's replaced by units, what a mess Gosford will become. This pattern shows a complete lack of commitment to retaining vital public assets and revitalising the CBD. The last thing we heard on the PAC was a vague statement that Central Coast Council was merely investigating locations. I ask you directly tonight, are staff in fact genuinely investigating alternative location for the PAC, or was that just a floss? Have you considered where the site could be, if not the Broadie? Let me be absolutely clear, the physical construction of the PAC is not time critical. What is time critical is securing the land, because land can't be created. The responsibility for losing the last viable future-proof site of our city's cultural heart lies with this council here today. You have the power to stop this sale. Your decision to retain the Broadwater site, or definitively tell us, if not the Broadie, where.
Thanks, Joy. Thank you. Councillor Smith, got a question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question to the Speaker, Mrs Cooper. So I have raised within Council an interest in having a strategic look at this. I haven't gotten very far yet. But can I just ask you, one of my concerns is that other councils do invest in land, and we seem to be trying to sell our assets. I was under the impression that Brisbane Council has property in Gosford. Do you know anything about that? You seem to be pretty au fait with some of this stuff.
Yep, looked at it very closely. The tax office was built, and also the other older building in front, and they're both owned by the Brisbane Council Superannuation Fund.
All right, thank you for that. Can I just flag with the staff, when we get to item 7.2, I'd be requesting some information on Mrs Cooper's questions about the PAC, alternate sites, where we are with that. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, thank you. I now declare the public forum closed, and you are invited to watch the webcast of the council meeting, which will commence at 6:30. A link to the website can be found on council's website. Thank you. In the event of an emergency or fire, please remain calm and wait for instructions from the CEO, council officers or security guards. If we need to evacuate the building, council has 2 emergency muster points. These are on the footpath of the Grand Hotel at the front of the building and Frank Ballance Park to the rear of the building. In the event of a medical emergency, please alert council officers for assistance. I remind councillors and all those that are in the chamber that your image and what you say may be broadcast live to the public, so please be mindful of your actions and your comments. You should avoid making statements that might defame or offend, and note that a recording of this meeting will be retained online and in council's archives. Please turn your mobile phones off or switch to silent. Filming and photography are not permitted in the chamber. Anyone observed to be filming the meeting may be asked to leave. I'd like to remind councillors to turn their microphones on before speaking and off again when no longer addressing council. Councillors who are joining via audio visual link must ensure that their camera is turned on for the entirety of the meeting. I remind councillors that we may have been elected to represent our community and are tasked with making a decision and solving problems. I encourage all councillors to please keep the debate robust but polite and respectful. The Code of Conduct defines behaviour standards and sets out a mechanism to respond to any contraventions. I now declare the meeting open at 6:31. A warm welcome to everyone in the gallery and those watching along at home tonight. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play. We pay respects to the Darkinjung country and elders past and present. We recognise the continued connection to these lands and waterways and extend this acknowledgement to the homelands and stories of those who also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and the shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. Procedural motion, attendance by councillors on the video audio link. A request has been received from Councillor Lamont to attend this meeting by audio visual link in accordance with clause 6.21 on the Code of Meeting Practice. I note that in accordance with clause 6.24 of the Code of Meeting Practice, Councillor Lamont is entitled to vote on this item. That council approves the request by Councillor Lamont to attend the council's meeting 28th October 2025 at 6:30 p.m. by audio-visual link, as she is unable to attend in person due to personal reasons. Can I have a motion? Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Smith. All those in favour? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Muland, Councillor Daniels, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lamont, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, and against, Councillor McQuaid. Carried. I will now ask each councillor to disclose any conflict of interest they might have in the items on tonight's agenda. I can confirm I do not have any conflicts tonight. Councillor Muland?
No conflicts, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Daniels?
I have 2 conflicts tonight. I have 7.92D, the Community Events Place Activation Grant Program. The Gosford Strip Precinct, I was a member of the Uptown program that started that, so I will leave the chamber. And item 7.10, item 2JJ, the Shoebox Revolution Community Development Grant Program. I'm one of their ambassadors, so I will also leave the room. Both are pecuniary non-significant.
Thank you. Councillor McGregor?
No one conflicts, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Castles?
Yes, I have a non-significant, non-pecuniary conflict of interest in relation to item 7.11, the Community Support Grants Program. The particular clause being that I'm a member of the EDSAC Croquet Club, who is a grant, will be, if successful obviously, a grant recipient, but I hold no official position with that organisation, and I will remain in the chamber and take part in any voting or discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crowley.
I have no conflict, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I declare a non-pecuniary, non-significant conflict with the grants program regarding the Central Coast Domestic Violence Committee, of which I am chair of that committee. I will leave the chamber to manage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Neal.
I have no conflicts, Mr Mayor.
I read your lips. You said you had no conflicts. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will declare a non-significant non-pecuniary interest on items 7.10 and 7.11, as I have a previous association with the Community Environment Network. As these are grants programs, I will choose to leave the chamber for those items to avoid any perception of conflict. Thank you.
Councillor Lamont.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In respect to item 3.1, I advise that I'm a member of the SOS Facebook group and declare that under clause 5.3 of the Code of Meeting Practices does not constitute a conflict of interest. I also have no private interest in the matter or close personal relationship with anyone who has a private interest in the matter. I will remain in the meeting and participate in discussion and voting on the item. Thank you.
Councillor Eaton.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got the trifecta tonight. So can I declare a significant non-pecuniary interest in 6.2, the Economic Development Committee minutes in relation to the manufacturer program, as Central Coast Group Training is a major part of that program, and I'm a director of that organisation. However, there's no pecuniary benefit one way or another out of that report to that organisation, so that's why it's significant but non-pecuniary. But I'll leave the chamber. Next one is the community support grant, item 7.11. As again, there is a grant to Central Coast Group Training, and I'll declare a pecuniary interest in that because there is a recommendation to give them some money, and I'll leave the chamber on that. And I'll also declare an insignificant conflict on the notice of motion which refers to the Hunter Central Coast Regional Planning Panel, as I'm a member of that panel appointed by Council. However, I can't see any conflict arising in relation to that matter, and so I'll stay in the chamber, but if some conflict does arise, then at that stage I'll leave. Thank you.
Councillor Stanton. Could you please repeat, Councillor Eaton?
I didn't quite hear in terms of which one.
What one?
So I'm declaring an insignificant or non-significant conflict on the basis simply that the planning panel is referred to in the notice of motion, and I'm a council delegate to that panel, which is actually an exception to an interest, but also in terms of what's discussed in that notice of motion, I can't see any conflict arising between my public or private duties, so I will remain in the chamber. However, if some conflict develops, then I will leave the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will declare a non-significant and non-pecuniary conflict of interest in relation to 7.9 due to my affiliation with the Women's Shed Committee. Although it's non-significant, non-pecuniary, I will still leave the chamber in case of any perception. I also declare a non-significant and non-pecuniary conflict of interest in relation to 8.2, as I am also a council delegate on the planning panel. Thank you.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item 8.2, the notice of motion from Councillor Castles, I believe, only because I'm an alternate to the panel. However, I will remain in the chamber and vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor McNamara.
nil disclosure of interest.
Thank you, Councillor McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will disclose a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item 2.2, Merrill Minute. I've got a close personal relationship with an athlete that you have mentioned, but as you're just acknowledging the success of the athletes, I'll remain in the chamber.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, can I please ask Councillor Stanton to clarify in relation to her conflict on item 8.2? She did not indicate whether she intended to leave the room or otherwise.
I think she did indicate. Could you just repeat again, Councillor Stanton? Can you, Councillor Neil, put your buzzer off?
It's non-significant and non-pecuniary, so I'll be staying in the chamber.
Thank you. Councillor McGregor.
Because the other alternate delegate for the planning panel's declared an insignificant non-pecuniary, I'll do the same for item, was it 8.2? And I'll also note that I've never attended a meeting of the planning panel or been invited to during the time that I've been an alternate.
Thanks, Councillor McGregor. Next item on agenda is item 1.6, confirmation of minutes. Councillor Eaton, seconded by Councillor Wright. All those in favour?
Mr Mayor, I've just got a question, if I may. So, may I ask? Through you to the CEO. So it's just not the minutes specifically, it's the fact that they have not been included in the agenda paper. They've as an attachment, and we have a resolution of council that they need to be included in the agenda paper. Can you just clarify what's going on there, please?
Thank you, Councillor, for pointing that out. That would be an error as a result of the new template that we're trialling for this meeting.
Okay, so that will be corrected.
To adjust that.
Okay, thank you very much, Tab.
Thank you. So, all those in favour of the confirmation of minutes? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item, 1.7, items resolved by exception. Council intends to deal with multiple items of business on the agenda together by the way of single resolution, except for items dealing with financial matters, matters that councillors wish to speak on, the meeting of standing committee, meeting and notices of motion, which will be dealt with separately. I will now call the number and title of each that has not yet been starred by councillors. Those items only will be moved by exception. We've got three items, 7.3, Water and Sewer Annual Performance Report 2025 for adoption, 7.4, Water and Sewer Delivery Plan 2022 to 26, Progress Report for adoption, 7.8, Minutes of Advisory Group and Committee Meetings held in Q1 2025-26. Councillor Castles.
Mr Mayor, yes, I had actually starred 7.7 annual disclosure of interest. I don't know if somebody else has, but if it's only me, I can now move it into the, move it en masse block.
Is that all right? Thank you. Everyone's happy with that, 7.7. We'll go through bulk. Thanks, Councillor Castles. So all those in favour? Councillor Wright? Yeah. Thank you. Unanimous. Item 2.1, Merrill Minute. The Matildas will take on New Zealand on the Central Coast. It's with great excitement that we welcome our Australian women's national team to the Central Coast. Thanks to the support of New South Wales Government, Destination New South Wales and Football Australia, the Matildas will play New Zealand's football Ferns in the first of their friendly games on November the 28th at Polytech Stadium. The game kicks off a two-match series between these teams and lead up to next year's AFC Women's Asian Cup. This is an incredible opportunity for the local and visiting football fans to experience an international match between two elite teams right here on the Central Coast. The Matildas visit is important for bringing a fantastic night of football to the coast and for the community spirit it will inspire. And as for the match, will be televised live thanks to Football Australia's broadcast partners Paramount Australia. It will also promote a region globally, putting the Central Coast firmly on the map. In our community strategic plan, people told us they want Council to support all of the activities that create a dynamic and thriving region. Hosting the Matildas game achieves this community-led goal and aligns with the direction in our destination management plan to grow sports event tourism. Local businesses can look forward to increased demand for the services from visiting football fans, and I have no doubt that many will hold special events to celebrate the team's visit. In closing, once again, our gratitude goes to the New South Wales Government, Destination New South Wales and Football Australia for the support. I'd also like to thank Venues Live, Polytech Stadium and Council's officers for helping to bring this dream to life. I encourage football fans across the coast, across the nation and even across the Tasman to make the most of an exciting opportunity to cheer on the team and enjoy everything that the Central Coast has to offer while they're here. I now move to receive this mayoral minute. All those in favour?
I had some comments. I was just going to speak to it quickly, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay. Only to say that I think it's important that we don't gloss over this because it is a really good achievement for the Central Coast. I know it's something personally that you've been putting a lot of effort into over the last couple of months, as well as many of the council staff, as well as the New South Wales government with MPs like David Harris and the like. So I think it's important to recognise those people, but also just to recognise what this means for the Central Coast. I know I've always been passionate about how we can better utilise Central Coast Stadium, and you know, I believe it was yourself, Mr. Mayor, commenting last week about how many tickets had already been sold. So that's a fantastic result for our region. That's exactly what the stadium needs. It's good for council, obviously as we own the stadium, but it's good for the many businesses, nightlife opportunities and recreational opportunities across the Central Coast. I know we have people coming up from Sydney and down from Newcastle, and it really is events like these that put us on the map. And obviously these are, you know, outside of council's core business. So to all the council staff and yourself who have gone out of their way to do everything they can to bring to the Central Coast, I think that's truly commendable. So thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you. And thanks to all the staff for the wonderful job you've done. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Second mayoral minute, item 2.2, acknowledging outstanding local athletes. The Central Coast continues to shine as a hub for elite athletes, and we're proud to celebrate some remarkable recent achievements. Nicola Ollie Slaggers, world champion high jumper and proud local, claimed gold at the 2025 World Athletic Championships in Tokyo, her first outdoor world title. Just weeks earlier, she soared to 2.04 metres, setting an Australian and Oceania record and the highest jump of the year. We also applaud another Central Coast athlete who has competed in Tokyo and achieved personal best, an inspiring testament to their dedication. Another two local athletes achieving incredible things are Pamela McClelland and Sarsha McGurk. Pamela McClelland from Buff Point has made her mark on the global boxing stage, winning both the super featherweight world and international titles at the Women's International Boxing Association titles in Thailand. A professional since 2019, Pamela has also secured her second Australian lightweight title earlier this year. And Sarsha McGurk from Kincumber turned professional boxer this year, and at just 22 years of age, she has won the New South Wales flyweight title and more recently the UNF International flyweight title in Thailand. On behalf of Council, congratulations to all our athletes. Your achievements reflect the spirit, talent and determination of our region. I'd like to move to receive this mayoral minute, and all those in favour, please. Oh, sorry, Councillor Quaid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just quickly like to talk about the little bit of positivity before we get cracking. Personally, I've had the privilege of witnessing firsthand the dedication, sacrifice that goes into being a world champion. What people often see is the medal, the smile and the moment on the podium. But what I've seen is the hard work behind it, the early mornings, the quiet moments of doubt, the resilience it takes to get back up after every setback. I couldn't be prouder of what Nicola has achieved, not just as an athlete, but as a person who carries herself with grace, humility, and an unshakable belief in what's possible. She's shown the world the greatness, that greatness can come from right here on the Central Coast, from our schools, our ovals, our beaches, and our community. And it's not just Nicola, Mr. Mayor. We've got other incredible athletes like Molly Picklin, Pamela and Sasha, and other world-class athletes showing what the Coast kids can do on the global stage. These are people who have turned local dreams into world-leading success stories. But what I love most, Mr. Mayor, is what their journey represents. It's about more than sport. It's about showing the next generation that no matter where you start, you can rise, you can lead, and you can make your mark from the coast. Nicola and Molly and Pamela and Sasha and others like them are putting the Central Coast on the map, not just as a beautiful place to live, but as a community that produces world-class people who lift others up and lead with heart. That's the kind of inspiration that builds strong communities. It reminds us to back each other, to invest in our people, and to believe in what's possible right here at home. The coast isn't just where we live, it's where resilience is built, dreams are chased, and determination turns locals into world champs. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for recognising these athletes, as I think this should be done more. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 3.1, rescission motion, coastal erosion motion. Councillor Walsh, would you like to move this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I raise the rescission motion and speak for it on the following basis. It's now well recognised, very particularly by acknowledged, highly respected coastal management experts, including Angus Gordon, OAM, that Wamberal Beach, including the beachfront properties, needs more sand, not hard structures, and not even necessarily more rocks. Sound coastal management can reduce risk to property and enhance and build the public beach, though it is important that all in the community recognise that no measure will necessarily completely remove coastal hazard risk. Councillor Eaton's motion is a motion which, if progressed, will on balance over time contribute significant further destruction on Wamberal Beach, the surrounding lagoons, and to many property owners, beachfront and surrounding areas. It's a motion that at least disregards widely accepted expert advice, represents the interests of an absolute minority, hence consequently disregarding the majority of the community at large. At a recent council organised community information session on coastal lagoons, for CMP for coastal lagoons, a state government representative was very clear that approvals for what is suggested in Councillor Eaton's motion will not happen under Section 68 possibilities. Premier Minns announced in April that the state Labor government will progress offshore sand nourishment as a way forward in response to coastal erosion at Wamberal Beach to protect and replenish the beautiful beach, and also acknowledges that sand nourishment will ultimately benefit beachfront properties in terms of protection. Councillor Eaton's motion assumes that all beachfront property owners are singing from the same songbook. Some might say a WPA songbook, and many in the community, including council, know that this is not accurate. When statements like at the private property owner's cost, on their own land, etc. are made, they assume all private property owners are in universal agreement about what they want, what is needed, what they can manage financially on an individual personal basis, and also assumes that all beachfront property owners even want any kind of wall. These statements also infer that there are no beachfront property owners that care about the ultimate, now well-known consequences of seawalls, that they don't care about the impacts and consequences for the beach, the impacts and consequences for their direct neighbours, or those living adjacent to lagoon areas. Does council even know what all the individual beachfront property owners want? Does Councillor Eaton know what all the individual beachfront owners want as he looks to progress options that appear to represent only the interests of a few? Why would we assume that it is only non-beachfront property residents in the community who want environmental justice for Wamberal Beach and its surrounding lagoon areas? The wider community, including some beachfront property owners, has demonstrated it has zero tolerance for concrete, vertical or step-fixed structures, concrete toes or exposed hard structures. Responding to and managing coastal erosion at Wamberal Beach cannot be stacked in a way that undermines the beach or public beach amenity. I urge you to all support this motion. This motion recognises the relevance and importance of progressing planning and responding to coastal erosion through an approved and certified coastal management plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Councillor Castles, would you want a second? Yep, thank you. Thanks, Councillor. Councillor McQuaid. Who's? Councillor Castles, thanks.
Yes, thank you for that. Look, I think we've been round in a lot of circles with this matter since we obviously were elected in October 2024. In the end, I'm sure we've all learnt a lot of things. One of the things I've learned is that we really do need to actually do the right thing here, to actually look at the actual science, to look at the community desire for a result that is actually going to benefit the beach, is going to make it a much better place for people to live if they are living nearby. We need to ensure that sand nourishment is a key, and we need to make sure that what we're doing is actually going to be backed up by the CMP. This is vital. We all know this, and we all know as far as the state government goes, this is absolutely essential, and we need to move forward with this tonight so that we actually give certainty to our community and to those who have been involved in this matter for a long, long time. So thank you. I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Councillor Castles. Councillor McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I respect Councillor Welsh and Councillor Castles in their opinion, but obviously I'm voting against the rescission motion. Mr. Mayor, here we go again, the same beach, the same issue, the same fear, the same politics. We spent years circling around this topic while the ocean continues to do what it does best, it moves. It doesn't care about our communities, our acronyms, our red tape. It doesn't care who sits in the chamber or what colour politics you align with. It just keeps eroding. And yet somehow we find ourselves back here debating whether to rescind a motion that finally tried to do something about it. Mr. Mayor, the motion we passed last month was balanced, responsible and informed by engineering, not ego. It respected the Coastal Management Act, it aligned with the Reconstruction Authority, it sought solutions that were technically sound and environmentally sensitive. This rescission motion, Mr. Mayor, is a step backwards, disguised as process. It clings to bureaucracy like a little raft while the shoreline disappears beneath it. Mr. Mayor, this rescission motion punishes progress by weaponising process. And there is a community waiting, Mr. Mayor, waiting for leadership, waiting for confidence, waiting for us to stop arguing about the same stand. Mr. Mayor, voting for this rescission motion doesn't fix erosion, it fixes nothing, it delays solutions, it undermines the experts and tells the public that politics matters more than protection. If leadership, Mr. Mayor, means anything, it means making a decision even when the path isn't perfect. It means trusting facts over fear, it means progress over paralysis. So tonight, Mr. Mayor, I'm standing for something that matters, I'm standing for common sense. And I'm voting against this rescission motion because this council should not be known how often it debates erosion, Mr. Mayor, but for the moment it finally stopped it.
Thanks, Councillor McQuaid. Councillor Reaton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm speaking against the rescission motion, and I note this is the third time this matter has been debated. I think further debate won't change anyone's position, and I don't need to say any more, and I'll move the motion be put.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question, but I've been waiting to. It needed to clarify the information that's provided before us by the CEO. The brief that's been provided by the CEO states that the New South Wales Reconstruction Authority Act does not limit the powers of the Minister to grant authorisation to short-term, temporary or emergency works. I'd like the CEO to clarify that on the basis that Janelle Saffin, who is the Minister responsible for the Reconstruction Authority Act, has her power limited by ministerial direction that does not allow her to make orders for works beyond the period of 6 to 8 months.
Through the CEO, Councillor, we've had meetings with RA staff as well as Environment Department staff, and they've clarified that the RA Minister is not proposing to approve permanent works, except when those are proposed through the Coastal Management Plan and certified by the government. We haven't, there is discussion that there is a guideline that limits the Minister. We haven't been able to see that, but it's clear from the advice from the agency staff that the Minister's not proposing to approve permanent works under Section 68.
Could the gallery please be quiet, or we'll ask for you to leave? The motion's been put. Councillor Walsh, you can close. Oh, sorry. I'll put the motion to be put. All those in favour?
Right of reply?
Yeah, but yeah. Sorry.
Thank.
Yeah. We're voting on the motion to be put. All those in favour? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Moreland, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid. And I'm speaking slowly because we've got a new system, so it takes a little bit of time to get put in. Those for? Those against? Councillor McGregor, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Crowley, no, sorry, not Councillor Daniels, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lamont, and Councillor Stanton. The motion to be put is lost. Yeah, the debate resumes. So, Councillor Walsh? No. Councillor Smith.
That's a good question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, if I could have the rescission motion. I think, again, it's a similar question. Are there still matters before the Regional Planning Panel on this? Have they been resolved yet, or is that still ongoing? Through you to the CEO, Mr. Mayor.
Through CEO, Councillor, there are a number of development applications that are being considered along this area from the with the Regional Planning Panel, or about to be reported to the Regional Planning Panel. Is that what you're just?
No, that clarifies it, because I mean, it's my understanding we do still have 2 councillors on the Regional Planning Panel. That's correct, isn't it? Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO.
Through CEO, yes, Councillor. There are councillors on the Regional Planning Panel.
Yep. Okay, and they still receive a fee for sitting on the planning panel. I think it was about $7,000 in the first 6 months. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Stanton. Sorry, Councillor Walsh.
Sorry, I think that question needs to be directed back to the CEO, because the question was, are the councillors on the Regional Planning Panel, was not specific. The question was about on this type of panel decision, which is not true. So could the CEO please actually respond to that? Thank you.
And I'm not privy to the Regional Planning Panel. I have been a member of the Regional Planning Panel in the past, but not for a long time. But individual councillors are impanelled onto the regional planning panel, as Councillor McGregor, who's one of Council's nominees, he's advised, for example, he hasn't been impanelled. So on individual development applications for any sort of, any type, individual councillors may or may not form on that panel, may or may not participate for a whole range of reasons.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To close out the debate, I will raise my eyebrows, if nothing else, at Councillor McWade's comments regarding the so-called politicisation of this issue from this side of the Labor side of the chamber anyway. We have a council that is working hard to progress a CMP that will ultimately that they are obviously hoping, and the community is hoping, will ultimately be certified, which will enable a range of things to be able to happen to protect our coast and to manage our coast, at a time when there are significant global-based issues that affect our local coast here. To say that we are politicising it at a time when you are putting forward, where you want to progress a motion that actually politicises it exactly in the inverse. And I think it's really important that our community understands that and sees that, and I'm actually quite sure they do, and they certainly tell me they do. And it's literally not acceptable to try and argue on one hand that, you know, we should all collaborate and we should all work together, when in actual fact the type of motion that you want to progress is so environmentally unjust, actually socially unjust as well, and has potential, a significant potential downside economically for our coastal region. So I do not accept your claims that we are the ones politicising it. I actually am suggesting to you that you are absolutely the one politicising this, have been from the start, from the get-go, and so I will finish off by not accepting that claim and allege the same back to you.
Thanks, Councillor Walsh.
Mr Mayor, could I speak?
She's closed the debate. Yeah, all those in favour of the Councillor Walsh?
Mr Mayor, I was just wondering if I could have a chance to speak.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Lamont.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Apologies, I closed out not seeing that Councillor Lamont had her hand up. I apologise.
Yeah. Sorry, Councillor Lamont, she'd closed the debate.
That's okay.
My apologies.
That's okay.
I heard the voice and I didn't know where it was coming from, sorry.
I'm just raising, through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO. I did begin that close out of the debate, not realising that Councillor Lamont had her hand up. So
I'm the same. I'm sorry. All those in favour?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, can I move a procedural motion for Councillor Lamont to be heard, please?
You've closed the debate. Go to the vote. All those in favour? No, all those in favour of the rescission motion? Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lamont. All those against? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mooland, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara and Councillor McQuaid. The rescission motion is lost. Next item in gender is item 4.1, election of the Deputy Mayor, deferred from Council meeting 23rd of September 2025. Councillor Eaton.
Yes, I've given the Civic Support A motion in respect of this, which if it could be put up, it's effectively the same, it just defines the term. While waiting for it to come up, item 1 just determines to elect a deputy mayor for the period from 28th October, which is today, until, it's up now, until 22nd September next year, which is the date of the ordinary meeting.
Can I get a seconder?
Next year.
Councillor McNamara.
And the rest open voting, which is what we normally do, and the rest is as per the recommendation. Yes, and so the only thing I need to speak to is to say that, which I just said, but I'll say it again, the period is to the ordinary meeting due in September next year.
So we've got a seconder, Councillor McNamara. Any other speakers not?
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Yeah, Councillor Lamont.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I speak against item 4.1, the election of a deputy mayor. Last year when we elected the deputy mayor, I expressed my objection, and I do so again tonight because the circumstances have not changed. At that time, I noted that we, as a newly elected council, had barely come to know one another. We were still establishing working relationships and learning how to function collectively in the best interests of our community. Unfortunately, that context still holds true today, not because of inexperience, but because of the dynamics of this chamber have continued to reflect political deal-making rather than collaboration grounded in principle or genuine community representation. The election of the mayor and deputy mayor last year was, in view of many, the product of behind-the-scenes political arrangements, deals made between groups that do not necessarily reflect the will of the community or the democratic intent of local government elections. To now see the same process potentially repeated again for the appointment of a deputy mayor for another year only reinforces that perception that decisions in this chamber are driven by political alignment rather than open merit or public interest. This is one reason the Liberal Alliance voted to defer the item from last month's council meeting. The possibility of not controlling this vote was unbearable for them. Our community doesn't want to play politics. They want us to see making genuine decisions for them and not for each other. The legislation allows us to appoint a deputy mayor, but it does not require us to do so. The CEO's report itself acknowledges that the deputy mayor's role is simply to act in the mayor's absence or at the mayor's request. In other words, there's no operational need in appointing a deputy. There is no need for another formal title or another layer of internal politics. Appointing a deputy mayor should be about ensuring continuity and leadership of our community, not about rewarding alliances or entrenching political blocs. To do so for appearance sake or to maintain an internal hierarchy risks undermining the public's trust in our capacity to act transparently and independently. 1 year on, I still believe that we have not earned the right as a group to create positions that extend or duplicate authority without clear need. If the mayor is unavailable, the legislation provides for us to elect a chairperson for that meeting. That's a simple, practical and democratic mechanism. Therefore, I cannot in good conscience support this item, and I urge my fellow councillors to reject the proposal to elect a deputy mayor, not out of opposition for opposition's sake, but out of genuine belief that council should be focused on serving our community and not managing internal politics. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour of the amendment? The motion? Laurie McKenna, Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mullen, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid. Against? Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, and Councillor Lamont and Councillor Smith. The motion's been carried. I now declare the motion carried. Mr. Farmer, you can now conduct the election.
In accordance with the resolution, this election will be conducted in accordance with section 394 and Schedule 7 of the Local Government General Regulation 2021. For the purpose of this election, I'm the returning officer and Edward Hock is the public officer. I've, at this point in time, received 2 nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor. I now invite further nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor for a 1-year period. That has to be done in the prescribed form and receive the consent of the council law. Are there any further nominations? In accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2021, 2 or more councillors may nominate a councillor, one of whom may be the nominee for the position of Deputy Mayor. Nominations must be in writing and the nominee must consent to their nomination in writing. If we have no further nominations, I have received nominations from Councillor Mooland, or for Councillor Mooland and for Councillor McGregor. It has been resolved that the method of voting for the position of Deputy Mayor will be by show of hands. Each councillor is entitled to vote for only one candidate in each round of voting. As we have only 2 nominees, it will be the councillor has the majority, an absolute majority. We will now determine the order of voting by writing each candidate's name on a slip of paper and depositing in the box. The first name out of the box will be written first on the tally sheet, with the second name out being written second on the tally sheet. And the first name out and the first person to be called will be Councillor Mooland. And the second name to be called will be Councillor McGregor. So in that order, we will put those names. You write those on the tally sheet, Mr. Hock. So if you could just let me know when you're ready. We're ready? Okay, so I'll now commence the voting. The candidate with the highest number of votes will be declared the Deputy Mayor. With those councillors voting for Councillor Mooland, please raise your hand and keep it raised. That is Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mooland, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid. That's correct? Is that all? Yes? And those councillors wishing to vote for Councillor McGregor, please raise your hand. Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith and Councillor Lamont. Could you please read the tallies? Councillor Mooland. I declare Councillor Mooland elected as Deputy Mayor. Thank you. That concludes the election.
Thanks, Mr. CEO. I now move a procedural motion to suspend the standing orders so that the Audit Office can present to the meeting. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Wright, seconder. All those in favour? All those in favour of bringing the next item, agenda 7.2, forward? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mooland, I think. Yeah, unanimous, thank you. Can I please ask the Director of Corporate Services to introduce our speaker, please?
Through the Chair,
I would like to welcome Carolyn Kanakis, to the podium to talk to us about the audit of our financial statements. Thank you, Carolyn.
Anis is a hard name to pronounce. Well done. So good evening, Mayor, councillors, Chief Executive and directors. Thank you for the invitation for me to present my report on the conduct of our audit of Central Coast Council. So I've got some slides. I'm just waiting for them to pop up. But essentially tonight I'll be talking to you about the results of our 2025 financial statement audit. I'll also talk to you briefly about the annual work program, which is what our audit office produces. It's a 3-year work program. Talk to you about the focus areas from our 24-25 financial statement audits that will form part of our local government report to Parliament. Just next slide, please. And then just the key financial analysis of your council's financial statements. Included in the section 7.2 of your papers, you'll have my report on the conduct of the audit. So I'll probably just, the next slide, please. Yep, just in terms of our annual work program, just to draw your attention to the work that the audit office does. So we don't only do financial audits, we also do performance audits. So these audits we table in Parliament. And performance audits are a little different, where they actually look at the activities of government entities, including state and local councils, to see if they've carried out their activities effectively, economically, efficiently, and in compliance with relevant laws and legislation. So every year we put out a 3-year annual work program, and it's what the Auditor General puts out to show the topics and the planned performance audit that he's going to look at over the next 3 years. And every year he will update that based on the scan of the environment and key risks. So just to draw your attention to what will be included in our annual work program, we focus on some key themes. So for 25-26, we'll be looking at the efficiency and optimal use of public resources, grants administration, major capital projects, climate-related risks, and First Nations communities. So these themes will feature, will feature in some of the performance audits that we do as we plan those. So just to give you an idea of the planned performance audits in local government specifically over the next year, we're planning to look at long-term financial planning. And we'll have a series of these audits that will be designed to look at and evaluate the effectiveness of long-term financial plans. We'll look at the audit risk and improvement committees that have been around now to see how effective they are and how they're supporting councils. We'll look at performance management and monitoring, so looking at the integrated planning and reporting framework and performance measurement practices. We'll look at major capital projects. We could look at major capital projects within a specific council or across councils. We look at climate risk and adaptation and also waste management. So that's just to give you a flavour of some of the planned performance audits that we can do and we'll be doing going forward. Yep, and then in terms of our financial statement audit, all the council audits actually getting audited at the moment, and by 31 October we'll collate all of the audit results from our audits of local councils, and we'll do our local government report, our sector report from financial statement audits. So we'll summarise the results of the audits, we'll look at financial sustainability across all of the councils, we'll have a focus on IT, cybersecurity risks and the use of AI and how that's governed. We'll probably touch on major projects, and then based on all our council audits, we'll look at the common themes of observations that we raised in terms of internal controls and governance. So that should be reported towards the end of the year or early next year, so to keep an eye out for that. But now turning to your council and the report on the conduct of the audit. So we have completed our audit of the general purpose financial statements and the special purpose financial statements of Central Coast Council. So I am pleased to report to you that I have issued clean audit opinions on your council's financial statements for the year ending 30 June 2025. So it means that your financial statements contain no material misstatements and present fairly. So next slide, please. So just looking at some of the key highlights that I need to include in my report on the conduct, which is all set out by the Office of Local Government. So looking at the income statement, so you can see that council, a little bit small, but you can see that council's total revenue is at 891.1 million. So this did increase by 54.7 million, or 6.5%, from last year. So this was due to your rates and annual charges. So you had 459.6 million, which increased by 38.1 million, mainly due to the rate peg of 4.8% applied to your general rates and other various increases in annual charges, including those determined by IPART. User charges and fees also increased by 11.8 million, so you had 181.2 million in user charges and fees, mainly due to increases in water supply service charges and a 12% increase in tipping fees. And also you had grants and contributions from both capital and operating. So this was 173.9 million, which increased just slightly by 0.2 million from last year. But it's worth to note as well that with your capital and operating, your capital contributions, they can fluctuate depending on donated assets, and they're also impacted by the federal assistance grants that council received in advance for the next year. So this year they received 50% in advance compared to 85% last year. So it can cause that number to fluctuate. So turning to the next slide. So looking at your operating result. So in that graph, the number's a little bit small, but I'll let you know that your council's operating result was 158 million from continuing operations. And that remained mainly stable, fairly stable. It decreased by just 0.7 million from last year. And that reduction was mainly due to an increase in depreciation, amortisation and impairment expenses. So that in total was 211.4 million, which did increase by 13.3 million, or 6.7%. And the reason for that is you had increased work in progress, assets and asset renewals of 255.5 million, as well as an increase in the fair value through your valuation process last year of 325.5 million. However, once you deduct your capital grants and contributions, the net operating result, so before capital grants and contributions, reduces to 28.5 million. So that's a 9.2 million decrease from a 37.7 million net operating result last year. But this still shows that after taking out capital contributions grants, council's still making a profit of 28.5 million for 24-25. Now we'll just move to looking more towards your balance sheet, so looking at your unrestricted current ratio. So this really measures council's ability on how their ability to pay short-term obligations as they fall due. So your council's unrestricted current ratio decreased from 6.4 times last year to 4.34 times this year. So the reason for that slight reduction was because council's unrestricted current liabilities increased by 36 million due to the increase in goods and services payables of 13.9 million in 24-25. So we can compare the council's unrestricted current ratio of 4.34 to the average of all of the council's ratios based on our audited 23-24 statements. So that was an average of 3.7 for your metro councils and 3.1 for regional councils. So you can see your council at 4.3 times, it is quite sound and in a reasonable position compared to the average of all the councils last year. Also looking at the available cash to cover expenses ratio, and 16 months for regional councils. But if you look at Central Coast, your council can fund 8.4 months of general expenses from cash, not subject to external restrictions. So again, that's just on par with the average of all councils. So I might now move to your looking at your cash equivalents and investments. So looking at your cash position, so council does have total cash and investments of 874.2 million. So this increased from 799.7 million in the prior year. So that's a 74.5 million increase. And then we also look at what's externally restricted. So by that it means that those funds can have to be used for specific purposes, and they're either restricted by legislation or third-party contracts. So your council had 581.5 million in cash that's externally restricted. And the majority of that, or around 43%, relates to developer contributions, domestic waste reserves, and unspent funds on water, sewerage and drainage charges. It's the majority of what comprises your externally restricted cash. So at 30 June 2025, Council reported a positive cash and investments balance after taking out these external restrictions of 292.7 million. So that was higher than last year's figure of 250 million. And also, I haven't got it on the slide here, but in terms of your debt and loans that Council had, Council's loans were 211.4 million. So that did decrease from last year's figures. And this year, Council drew down 40 million to fund the Māori water treatment plant and also repaid 20 million in borrowings. So just turning, probably the last comment is just to look at your spend on assets, on infrastructure, property, plant and equipment. So Council obviously spends a lot of money on renewing and purchasing assets. So in 24-25, your Council renewed, spent 226 million in renewals of your assets, of infrastructure, property, plant and equipment. And this was mainly spent on roads, water supply networks and sewage networks. And then there was a further 97.5 million that was spent on new assets. And if you can compare that to last year, where Council renewed 170.7 million worth of infrastructure, property, plant and equipment. And then looking at the spend, so your Council's capital expenditure. So for your Council, the total expenditure in 24-25 was 298.2 million. And a lot of that was spent on capital works in progress, including some of your major projects like the Māori water treatment plant, drainage assets, so 17.9 million spent on drainage, roads and other. So that's just to give you an idea of where of what was spent on infrastructure, property, plant and equipment. So that's probably some of the key points just to take you through, and yeah, happy to take any questions. But before that, a big thank you to the Chief Executive, Directors and Management for all working with myself and my team during the conduct of our audit. And I suppose it's a good outcome to get the audit opinion all signed and included in the papers for tonight. So thank you.
Councillor McNamara, got a question?
Yes, thank you for all of that. Question regarding the debt. You provided us with a combined amount between the two accounts of just over 200 million. Have you got the water and sewer and the general fund debts separate or not? So
I'm reporting on the general purpose financial statements where it's combined, and then within a note in the statements you could probably see between the split between the funds. But yeah, the number that I'm providing is the total.
It'll be in the fine print. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, within your fund noting. Yeah,
Thank you.
And the reporting that you get that I see through every month through the council.
Thank you.
Councillor Neal.
Yes, thank you for your report. My question relates to the restricted funds. What actions did the auditor take to ensure that the restricted funds had not been accessed for improper purposes?
Yeah, thank you. A good question, an area that we do focus on, because obviously there's a risk of compliance breach for using those restricted funds for unrestricted purposes. So I suppose even as a starting point, your council has quite a high excess of cash above your externally restricted funds. We will do our audit procedures to check cash. We look at your internal controls that exist to monitor that. And we will also do our own audit procedures to check through our testing whether through expenditure how those funds have been spent. So I think we're comfortable. Comfortable.
Any more questions? Councillor Castles?
Yes. I can't actually find it at the moment, but I think somewhere in your report where you were talking about those ratios, there is some mention of the fact that I think Central Coast Council is one that sort of doesn't quite fit metropolitan and doesn't quite fit regional, and therefore when you look at those, you know, if you like, I can't think of the term, but almost like working capital, I suppose you might say, ratio, where how long you've got, if sort of over that period of time. So can you give us any, I guess, insights into what this means going forward? Because it seems we don't fit in a neat box. I'm not saying other councils don't as well, but it does make it quite hard sometimes to make a judgment on, well, how good is that, or is there anything to be concerned about?
Yeah, so in terms of classifications, so correctly, the OLG classifies you as Metro Fringe, and then we've, I suppose through our reporting, have tried to group them more into three, between regional, metro and rural. But these aren't benchmarks, so we're just looking at the average. And that's why, so this year, the difference in our report is we're not actually comparing to any ratio set by the regulator, because they're no longer included or subject to audit. So I think once those ratios are more defined and could be more relatable going forward, but I think just comparing yourself to the ratios based on metro councils, you're above average. Yeah.
No further questions. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. I now move a procedural motion to resume standing orders. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Eaton. All those in favour? Councillor Neil. We moved the motion to suspend, so we now have to open back up again. Yeah, but that's next. So, just going back to open, all those in favour to open back up? No, so Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mulland, Councillor Daniels, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Smith, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid, against. Councillor Neil, carried to open. So item 7.2, presentation of 2024-25 financial statements and related auditor's report. Councillor Smith, do you move that?
No, Mr. Mayor, I just had a question, if it's appropriate now. Oh, sorry, you're moving that now?
Oh, so Councillor Wright, you?
I'll move it if you like,
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Right. Okay, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, sorry, it was just when the speaker in public forum, I said I'd ask the question because the speaker spoke on this item, and it was just with the Performing Arts Centre, and I did flag that I'd ask that question. So I think the question was, the speaker seemed to indicate that there'd been advice that staff were investigating options for a site for the regional or the Performing Arts Centre. So is there some clarification or response regarding that, please?
It's my understanding that there's no reference to a regional performing arts centre in our operational plan, and there's a standing resolution on the books of council to sell the former council site. So the Performing Arts Centre piece was something that I believe council stepped away from at all before the period of the financial crisis was considered to be unaffordable.
Okay, so my particular concern is that there seemed to be some information or staff made comments and you're saying that they are not correct or they've been misinterpreted or whatever.
I've got no idea what staff would have mentioned that to whom, but the fact is it's not been an active project in my time, my almost 5 years here, the Performing Arts Centre, which may well have been a strategy that the previous council has pursued. It certainly hasn't been an active project in this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? No. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 5.1, Monthly Finance Report, September 2025. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to move the monthly investment report. I suppose the only other comment I make to all councillors is that next month, very excitingly, at the Governance and Finance Committee, we will be having a presentation on the overarching investment strategy from from our external partners. So would certainly encourage everyone to come along to that on, I believe, the 11th of November at Gosford Library, actually. So come on down.
Councillor Eaton, are you second?
I'll second, but I've got a question too, if I could, through you, Mr. Mayor. And it's in relation to the comment on about capital works on page 23, where we're 25% under budget for Q1, which is quite a lot, and I'll be seeking, some further comment, I suppose, about whether we can catch that up. So the comment is capital expenditure is 43 against a year-to-date budget of 57, which, as I say, when you add it up, is 25% under budget, and I think that's a lot for a quarter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Eaton. We've been reviewing our quarterly performance in relation to capital works, and there is predominantly 3 water and sewer projects that are likely to be moved into their multi-year projects, and that phasing will be moved slightly into subsequent years into next year. It's making up probably the majority of that phasing difference at this point.
So does that mean, thank you for that, that we'll have other projects that we can move in to make sure that we do get close to our budgeted capital spend? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, these are assets for the community.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Eaton, in the water and sewer, it's pretty tight in relation to the multi-year. It looks to be in the order of about $20 million that is moving, and they are big, chunky projects. The difference in our general fund capital works is only about $1 or $2 million.
Councillor Lamont.
Sorry, I also had questions about the capital works program, but that's been answered. But I just wanted to ask about the staff. The favourable item in the staff is, I know it's come up before where we do end up with about a favourable item in staff, and I was just wondering, is that actually because of genuine deficiencies or ongoing staff vacancies, and what impact are these having on service delivery? Especially noting, I think just recently we had a pretty high figure for overtime. So I'm just wondering about that favourable item with staff or employee costs.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Lamont. That's a very good question. There is a favourable variance, and that is somewhat offset by a captured vacancy rate to account for turnover time lag. Currently, council has a less than 10% turnover rate, which is lower than industry average of around 14%. And some of that is covered by people undertaking overtime to ensure that we maintain service levels. You'll see in the annual, next month in the quarterly review, there'll be a full breakdown of our progress against our operational plan. And we've undertaken substantial work on that already, and it shows significant progress. So it doesn't appear at this stage that there's any impact on service delivery as a result of resourcing, and our turnover rates are lower than average, which would seem to support that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All those in favour? No more speakers. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 5.2, monthly investment report. Can I have a mover? Councillor Milland. Can I have a seconder? Councillor McQuaid. Any questions? No, no questions. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 6.1, Environment and Planning Committee Minutes and Recommendations. Councillor Eaton, as the Chair of Environment and Planning Committee, would you like to introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the block motion consisting of the recommendations and minutes apart from 7725, which is the Central Coast Strategic Conservation Plan, which I've received a request that be separately dealt with. So I'll move the block motion for the rest.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Stanton, thank you. Thanks. Councillor Smith, did you have a question?
Yes, are we moving on to that, the conservation plan now? No? Oh, we're moving this, okay. Oh, we're voting, okay, sorry. Yes, I'm voting.
Sorry, we've got a mover, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton. You put that? Yeah, all those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And now...
Sorry, I'll get it on the book. So I will move the committee recommendation in respect of 7725, the Central Coast Strategic Conservation Plan, and then Councillor Smith, if I get a second, and then Councillor Smith can do something.
Have you got a second, Councillor Eaton, for that?
Yeah, yeah.
Mover. Yeah.
Councillor Merlin over there.
Councillor Merlin. Councillor Smith?
So did you want to speak to it? Okay, I'll move an amendment, Mr. Mayor, that I think the staff have just put up on the board for me. So if I can just speak to it and explain it, because it's a bit wordy. But basically, the amendment asks that council write to the minister requesting an extension of the exhibition period, and I will talk to that in a moment. And the second part is that we also request that the department release a list of properties that are located within the boundary of the Central Coast Strategic Conservation Plan that currently have an active rezoning application or a development application under consideration. So that's one part A and B, and the rest of it is basically publishing that information and advising stakeholders. So if I have a seconder to that, I will speak to it. Yeah.
Councillor Castle, second.
So I will speak to it, Mr. Mayor. So the committee received a presentation on the Strategic Conservation Plan, and I can't speak for all the committee, and I won't try to, but I think there are a range of concerns, and certainly I think a number of councillors are receiving lots of contact from community groups and community individuals that are very concerned about this strategic conservation plan. My understanding, and I haven't even worked my way through it yet because apparently it's over 3,000 pages or 3,000 bits of information. And I think it would be fair and reasonable to ask the department, the state government, to give it a decent exhibition period. There's a lot in it. We know that our community, and we saw that through our community strategic plan, value the environment, value this place where we are. And I think it is fair and reasonable for people to have the opportunity to get across that, get an understanding of it, and be able to provide meaningful submissions on that matter. I would say that, the presentation or the discussion at the MP committee was very disappointing. We had a presentation from... Sorry, are we right? We had a presentation from the state government, which was fine as far as presentations go. And then the only further presentation we had was from two groups representing development interests. So we haven't had that balanced perspective. We haven't had that detailed information about what's involved. This conservation strategy has been, started, there was a draft conservation plan back in 2019. I don't know that it actually got released, but everybody has a copy of it. So it's over 6 years that the department's been working on it, and it's unreasonable to expect people to be able to digest and provide comment in, I think, 40 days. I could talk about whether it's really a conservation strategy, but I'm sure many other people are already touting what they think about that. But I also would note that the second part of this that requests information about any existing rezoning or DAs is not asking anything unusual. That information is out already in the public arena, because if you put in a DA or a rezoning, then that information is available. It's really just asking for that information to be compiled, partly because this is a significant matter, and you can't declare or you can't be aware of any conflicts unless you know who is involved. I do just have a question for staff, Mr. Mayor, if the staff can just stop the clock for me. Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, could I ask, please, through you to the staff, this conservation plan has issues all over it, but one of the issues is this reliance on offsets. And certainly from my time on the previous council, I'm aware that there were two particular knocking over, trashing of biodiversity that were meant to be offset. One was the Kangiyangi rail yards, and the other one was the Lisarow wetlands. And could I just ask through you to the CEO, what happened with the offsetting for those two proposals? I understand, Mr. Farmer, you probably personally won't know the answer to that question, but I'm sure somebody in the room probably would.
I'm sorry, we'll have to take that on notice. We'll provide you with the response. Predates me. Yeah.
Sorry?
It certainly predates me, I think.
Look, I understand it predates you, but it's a significant component of this belief that council and the state government will offset biodiversity loss. And it's a question that I only half know the answer to, and the half answer I know is I don't think they could get the offsets. I don't think they managed to locate offsets for that biodiversity loss. There may have been money paid in the end because that's part of the offsetting process, but this furphy, this belief that all of this vegetation and biodiversity is going to be destroyed but offset somewhere else is just an absurdity that will not be met. So I just ask councillors to support the community in having a reasonable amount of time to really consider this proposal and make submissions, and for our staff also. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Any other discussion? Councillor Eden.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The problem I have with this amendment, which arguably is probably against the motion, but I won't go there, is that it's premature. So as Councillor Smith knows, as a member of the Environment and Planning Committee, this matter is coming back to the committee next Tuesday. There's a public forum on next Tuesday at 2:30 for members of the public to come and address the committee. And then whatever the submission from council will go to the committee, and the committee will then make recommendations to the next council meeting. So if you want to do something about it, let's wait till we've heard from what the community who are going to address us, what we've seen in the submission, and then you can bring this back to the next council meeting, Councillor Smith. What I'm afeard of is if this gets through, we don't get the submission in and the government goes ahead and closes it off. At the moment, the closing date for the submission is the middle of next month. However, as I understand it, we've given assurance that whatever the council says in terms of adopting or not adopting the submission will still be considered and given weight by the department. Remember, this is not our document. This is the Department of Planning's document, and they set the rules. So let's do what is already in train, that is have the public forum next Tuesday, have the committee meeting next Tuesday, bring it back to the next council meeting, and then, Councillor Smith, given the community feedback, you may well want to make the same or similar motion, and I may well support it at that time. We've got time.
Councillor Walsh. That was
Before we go to the, did you want to speak, councillors?
Thank you, CEO. Through you, Mr Mayor, I wanted to ask a question of staff. I have requested clarification on if the public workshop will be available virtually, as a few of us anyway are going to be travelling to Ballina on that day for the Coastal Conference, and I for one want to attend the workshop but will not be in the area. I'm not the only one. And given the timing of the workshop, it also may mean that various members of the public may have issues with attending in person. So I wanted to ask about that, and I also wanted to ask about the advertising for the workshop. So I appreciate the workshop's been organised, that's terrific, and thank you for that, but the advertising, the communication that's gone out regarding so how will the public know that it's going to happen? So we can hopefully have maximised attendance.
Through you, CEO, on the 1st there'll be a virtual link for the meeting for councillors that can't attend in person. We're at this stage can't commit to broadcasting the workshop for public, but it will be open for the public to attend. Public will also be able to nominate to register to speak, and then they'll be able to present to the workshop. On the advertising, it'll be notified tomorrow as part of the business papers for the Environmental Planning Committee and on the council website.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Smith and Councillor Eaton both raised some very good points on this, because it is a very significant plan for our region. So I think it's fair that we need to definitely review this policy more. I actually wasn't aware until Councillor Eaton mentioned it that there will be a discussion around this in the Environment and Planning Committee meeting next month, but certainly I think there is merit to looking at some of these items listed here, if not resolved tonight, in that committee recommendation that comes back to council.
Can you show the motion? Can we put the motion up on the screen of the?
Mr Mayor, could I just offer a point of clarification? Councillor Eaton seemed to be thinking that this was about requesting an extension of time for council submission. It's councillors acting on behalf of their community requesting an extension of time for the submission process for all our community. So I don't think that can wait till the next EMP committee meeting to then come back to the next council meeting. I think it is important that this goes forward now in terms of making that representation to the Minister.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Can we just put the?
Can we just put the motion up so just so everybody understands what they're voting on? If we can put the motion up. We want to put the motion and then we'll show the amendment.
Yeah.
We want to show the motion and then the amendment. So everybody's clear about what you're voting on. That's Councillor Smith's amendment there, but if we could just see the motion. So if we can, while we're just waiting for that to occur, if we can just clarify that the motion is what is written at EPC 7725 of the council business paper, is that correct? Councillor Eaton?
Yes, on page 34
Page,
of the
page
business
35
paper.
of the business paper.
Oh, 35, you are correct.
All right. I think we can, as long as everybody's aware of what they're voting for, so we'll put the amendment first.
Yes. So we're going voting for the amendment. All those in favour of Councillor Smith's amendment? Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lamont. All those against? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mullen, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid. The amendment's lost. On the motion, Councillor Eaton's motion, all those in favour? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mullen, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid. All those against? Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, you vote, Councillor Smith?
You're voting against, Councillor.
You're voting against it, so the motion is carried. Thank you.
Okay, so we go to
Item 6.2, Economic Development Committee minutes and recommendations, October 2025. Councillor McNamara.
So I move the recommendation.
Hold it.
What?
Hold it.
And seconded by Councillor Neal.
Sorry.
She can't talk, but I'll, Councillor Neal seconding.
Councillor Neal?
Seconding.
Oh, second.
She
All right,
can't
sorry.
talk. So this month we had a lot of items noted, and in particular, if I could, through you, Mayor, to the CEO and our media team, there has been a number of media requests for Council to put out a media release on the item 2.4 in the Economic Development Committee, which was the Industry into Schools pilot program finalisation. There's a lot of good information in there, and that's a request I had received. The other quite interesting presentation was from the manufacturer, the Women in Manufacturing on the Central Coast. That organisation is certainly getting together and doing great work, led by a team of great ladies there from CCGT and a couple of others. So the presentation was very, very interesting, and to know and understand how that works with the manufacturing within the Central Coast was good to note. The other item that we will get more on next month is the Warrnambool Business Precinct as a standing item. But as somebody, I think Councillor Eaton said previously, the next meeting will be at Gosford Library on the first Tuesday of November. And that will be a very interesting meeting because the Economic Development Strategy, the Destination Management Plan and the Major Event Plan come back to that meeting. So it will be very interesting. The minutes are already out, sorry, the agenda is already out for that meeting. So I would encourage everybody to have a look at those three documents. That will be very interesting for the next 5 or 6 years, those strategy documents. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McNamara. Any further discussion? All those in favour? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mullen, Councillor Daniels, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Stanton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid. Nobody against us. We've got 2 out of the room, so carried.
Councillor Lamont's waving.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Lamont. In favour as well? Yes, Councillor Lamont. Sorry. Next item on agenda is 6.3, Infrastructure and Assets Committee Minutes and Recommendations, October 2025. Councillor Stanton, as the Chair of the Infrastructure and Assets Committee, would you like to introduce this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the recommendation, noting the minutes of the Infrastructure and Assets Committee, as I've received no requests to pull anything out. After it's seconded, I would just like to have a quick word about it.
Councillor McQuaid.
Just to note briefly that we are coming along well with our core infrastructure projects in our Capital Works program, and just a quick note again to commend the council on the achievement of having Gosford Library up and running now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton. Councillor Neal.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. In looking at this matter, there is one issue of concern, though substantially the Capital Works program is moving along well, and that is in relation to the animal care facility. You'll note that one of the recommendations contained in that report is that the council office investigate options for fast-tracking the existing timeline. This is the project that has been extensively delayed, and the existing facility is really not suitable for the animals held there. It is really almost becoming an issue of improper care of the animals in our care. So I just wish to particularly note that the councillors who are members of the committee are very aware of this delay and are seeking that matter to be expedited.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item agenda is item 7.5, Stormwater Drainage Charge Transfer Consultation and IPAR application for endorsement. Do you have a motion?
I think it's the annual report.
7.1.
Yeah, I was going to speak to that.
7.1. We did that.
We haven't done. We've done 7.2.
My apologies. 7.1 Annual Report 2024-25 for adoption. Do you have a motion? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think when you look at this annual report, it's clear that council's done.
Thanks, Councillor Wright.
Council's done considerably good work in the first year out of administration. It's very pleasing to see a number of these achievements here listed in the business paper. For those watching on, it'll be page 44 and page 45. I think that's a testament to the leadership we've got here at council, particularly within the staff across all those relevant directorates. One question I did have was probably through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Corporate Services, just around legal costs. I understand that it's received a lot of comment in the community lately how our legal costs are fluctuating year to year. I'd just like a brief explanation, if you would mind, as to why that's the case.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my apologies, I was looking up the information. In relation to the legal fees for last financial year, We spent 1.73 million on planning matters, and in previous years that was 1.17 million, so there was a slight increase. We're currently examining the data in the 23-24 annual report to make sure that it was compiled using the same methodology as the last year, just to ensure that we're comparing apples for apples. But there has been a genuine increase in those legal fees over that period of time. In previous years, the nature of the team has also changed, so the amount that we in-source or outsource has changed over time as a result of vacancies in the team, and we also need to respond to the number of legal matters. Further, in the legal environment, obviously there are often very minor matters and some very complex matters, and that impacts on the costs as well. Thanks.
Councillor Rayton, are you going to speak?
I will, but in consultation with Councillor Wright, there was an amended recommendation from the CEO that we need to actually add into the current motion. While that's coming up, I had a couple of questions. If I
Just to clarify, those words are the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to make final editorial amendments to the annual report to ensure correctness and clarity. There's a couple of pieces of data that just need to be tidied up, and I sent that information to all councillors this afternoon.
And Mr Mayor, I had a couple of questions through you to the staff. So on page 149 of the attachments, DP 173 talks about capital works again. I seem to have capital works night tonight. And it says 95% delivery of capital works projects achieved. And I'm thinking, and sorry, the comment is the number of capital works project was 424. So it seems that that indicator is simply the number of capital works, whereas I would have thought the dollar value was more important than the actual number of jobs.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to Councillor Eaton, there are two actual KPIs for capital works. One is the dollar value based on the original budget, adopted budget, and the other is the number of projects that are commenced as planned. As you can probably realise, we have a number of multi-year projects, so it's a little bit hard to pick up the number of projects that are started and finished in that one particular year, and that's how we're capturing it as a financial milestone once they've commenced to get that 95%.
But sorry, I think the indicator there is number of projects. Maybe you can have another look at that. Sorry, I've got a couple of questions, not a lot. Further down, DP 195, 196 on the same page, kilometres of road pavement to be renewed, kilometres of road resurfacing to be renewed. So the total's about 60 kilometres of our roads, which on my calculation is about 3% of our total road kilometres. And through you, Mr Mayor, to the Director, that doesn't seem to me to kind of probably be enough roads being fixed each year. Have you got a comment about that?
Additional to that, we do have maintenance that is, where we did over 60,000 potholes. There's also heavy patching on top of that that doesn't get added into the longitudinal figure that you're referring to.
Well, it'd be nice, maybe we could get that figure. And oh yes, I've got one for the Director of Planning. So again on page 150 now, number of mean assessment days for all development applications, less than 60, and obviously we're not meeting that. I'm not going there with this. But there's a comment mean assessment days were 149 calendar days or 86 business days. I fail absolutely to understand how 149 calendar days can give you 86 business days.
My mathematics isn't great either, councillor, but yeah, I'd have to check that. But I think the 149 calendar days sounds more correct.
It's mean and median.
I think I have one more. Just got to find it. Oh yeah, sorry, I found it through. Finally, one for the Director of Community. DP 311 on page 160 has a target of a million library branch visits achieved by 30th of June. We achieved 676, but that target is saying achieved. I think that might be an error that should be fixed in the revised version. Thank you.
If I could just provide some advice, I've just got some background on the dollar spend. The dollar spend was 297.9 or $298 million against a full year budget of 316. So that's in the 90s. So it's the 95% of project, I think it was about 94 or 93% of dollars.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. All those in favour, Councillor Daniels? Is that yes? Unanimous, thank you. Next item, 7.5, stormwater drainage charge transfer consultation and IPART application for endorsement. Councillor Eaton, you move?
Yes, I had a motion that I sent through again to Civic Support, if that could be brought up. It's 1 to 4 plus a 5 and a 6, which while it's coming up, I'm happy to read out. 5, that staff prepare a report on savings and income measures to offset the stormwater drainage charge loss as an alternative to the proposed SRV, or in the event that IPART does not fully support the SRV. And this report comes to the January council meeting. Actually, I think the words are slightly different because the staff reworded it, but the sense is the same. That 6, the council convened an ordinary meeting of council on January 27, 2026 to consider the formal application to IPART of the CRV, of the SRV.
Yeah.
We need to get it come up though. Oh, it's there now, sorry. It is there. It's just in a different format to what I read out. So I'll speak to it briefly, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Councillors, we all know that the reason for this report is that some time ago IPART in its wisdom said we could no longer levy the drainage charge in the way it had been levied in the past, and the result of that is roughly a $20 million shortfall in income to the council that can only be replaced. So it's their $22.3 million shortfall that only can be replaced in 2 ways, effectively, well, by ways of either finding other income by savings or by going through the process set out by IPART of a special rate variation. I think the view of the council was that we have little choice but to go through the SRV process, and that's what the motion recommendation calls for, but it also adds in that in the event that there is non-support by IPART or only partial support by IPART, we clearly need to look at what other changes could be made to our financial arrangements, either by way of finding additional income somewhere or by way of finding some savings. So I think responsibly that's got to be considered at the same time as we formally resolve, if we do, to proceed with the SRV variation. And on the advice from the CEO, Council needs to convene a meeting no later than the first few days of February to formally determine whether we go ahead with a SRV variation or not after some public feedback and public exhibition, and therefore the motion actually calls for an ordinary meeting of Council on the 27th of January, which is the date we would normally have such a meeting, being the fourth Tuesday of the month and the day after Australia Day, which means that most people will be off or coming off holidays by that time. I don't think I need to say anything else at this stage. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ian. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I appreciate from the community sense that when you look at this motion, it might make people a bit uncomfortable because it's quite wordy, and there's often a sense that people may worry that council's always increasing rates, etc., etc. My question would be to the CEO, more so not for an answer but for an explanation, because I think in our meeting the other night you provided quite a good explanation of what this actually means for council in simple terms, and I think that would be of benefit to the community just to hear a brief explanation of how it actually works.
Yeah, this council has historically levied a drainage charge that pay on the water notice because we're regulated by IPART for water and sewer, and it made part of our income up, and it funded the majority of our expenditure in the drainage space. And that's majority of drainage comes off our road network and then into the stormwater system, and so it's not just affecting a property, but it impacts people who don't even have drainage at their property. Their ability to get to and from anywhere is impacted by the availability of drainage. And IPART has, at its last determination in 2022, identified that it believed that that was something that was better collected under the Local Government Act as part of the rating system, and identified that we would need to get an SRV for that process because it increases what's known as our general income. So what in simple terms will happen is we have to go through a special rate variation, but we're not seeking to raise any additional money apart from the 3.2% that is the rate cap. The drainage charge, which is around $150 on your water bill, will go, and it will, if it is successful, will then move to your rate bill. So we're not asking for any additional money. All we're doing is asking for that money to move from the water bill to the rate bill.
Councillor Neal.
It was really a question to Councillor Eaton. He has proposed a date for a meeting, which is not a normal meeting. We don't normally meet in January. In fact, we've not planned to meet in January. We made a decision at our last meeting not to meet in January. That coupled with the situation where as of the 1st of January we will not be able to attend by video link means that you are setting a meeting date without consultation with all councillors, where we may well not be able to attend. In fact, I may certainly, it's a high probability I won't be able to attend on that date, and certainly a couple of other councillors I'm aware of probably won't be able to attend too. So what I would suggest that you amend it, well, we can amend it to say a meeting of the council to be determined by consultation with councillors prior to, what's the last date?
I think it's about the 3rd of February. You will have to set by resolution the ordinary meeting before the end of the year. So if council, if the motion is varied, you will have to move another motion to set the meeting. There are a number of other important matters that do need to be determined by council at or about earlier next year.
Yeah.
So I think it is important that we have a meeting in January or very, very early in February, apart from this particular matter.
I'm very happy to do that, but there hasn't been any consultation. I would like to actually participate in a meeting that determines this and other matters. If Councillor Eaton accepts my amendment, we then can bring back a further resolution, potentially by agreement, as to a date where the greatest number of councillors can attend. Maybe at the next meeting, which is November.
Yeah, it would have to be before the 2nd of February, and ideally it would need to be in the last couple of weeks in January. So you could just put a date, you know, an ordinary meeting of council before the 2nd of February to be determined at the November meeting, yeah. if the mayor was the mover was happy to deal with that.
No, don't just pick a date at random.
Mr. Mayor,
Are you agreeable to that, Councillor Eaton? Yes, I am. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Lamont.
Sorry, I think I'm having problems putting my hand up, so I understand you can't see it when I raise my hand, but I just have a few questions about this item as well.
Could we just wait 1 second till we just get this change, and I'll come straight back to you.
Thank you.
Did you get the changes? Or Councillor Smith can...
I don't want to lose my spot, Mr. Mayor. Okay, everybody else turn your buses off.
Oh,
Councillor Eaton, can you... Councillor Castles, can you just switch off?
Is it me? No, it's got...
No. Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
Convenes an ordinary meeting of council. Yeah, okay, before the 2nd of February 2026. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with that.
Yep. Councillor Lamont.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I just have a few questions to the CEO. It was always acknowledged back in March that there might be a possibility that the minister would not approve the section, I think it was 506 exemption, to avoid a special rate variation. And I'm just wondering, considering, and we've also known about this requirement to actually change the drainage charge to general rates from 21 and then 22. So I'm just wondering, considering the impact that this drainage charge will have on our finances, why have we left it until the 11th hour? Like, to me, it seems like we've avoided a special rate variation, but now we're trying to rush everything through. And I'm just wondering why that motion in March hasn't been included in this report.
When this matter, the inability to levy the drainage charge under the Water Management Act was made clear by IPART in 2022, there's a resolution to council, I don't have it in front of me, but it essentially says the council will then need to adjust its general rate via an SRV in conjunction with the water and sewer determination. And so as you're aware, this matter came to the council in April. We met with the minister, Councillor Neil and myself with the minister in April, and received a fairly favourable outcome, and he didn't respond back to us for 5 months, and that in some ways put us back on the back foot, and we've had to now move reasonably quickly. But the other point is that council chose, probably not understanding that it would have needed to deal with this matter, to not hold a meeting in January. I would say that for a council, the 4th or 5th biggest council in Australia, to rise for 10 weeks is, given it's now not, for example, got full delegations for tenders, for example, and there are a couple of significant tenders that will have to be determined early next year. It's probably not appropriate for the council to meet on the 10th of December and then meet at the end of February. So we are going to have to meet at a date sometime early next year to conduct some important business, not just this.
Okay, so I've got a couple of other questions, but you're sort of putting the timing back on us not being able to have council meetings during this period, where, as I said, you were aware of the risk back in March. So it's a bit rich sort of saying, well, you guys aren't having meetings, which has sort of thrown the process. As I said, the risk of the minister not approving this was quite well known back in April. The other thing too is I'm guessing that you're probably diverting a lot of resources to this process now, and I just wonder what impact will that have on other services, and if this doesn't get approved, what services should we be looking at cutting?
Well, there's a resolution on the books that says please provide a set of a list of services that will need to be reduced. The SRV process will not be as intensive as a conventional special variation process. I've, for my sins, been involved in a number of them in a number of councils, and if you're actually going to the community and asking for more money, it's a very, very intensive process. It's not as intensive a process in this circumstance because we're not actually asking for more money, and many of the critical parts of it, of the process, are not as complicated because all we're asking to do is actually something that IPART has asked us to do. If you look at the 2022 IPART determination, it indicates that the council will need to do an SRV if it is to maintain its income. So it is essentially the recommendation of IPART that we proceed this way.
Okay, and sorry, one last question. For 496A, why has council not considered at 496A stormwater charge that you don't need any IPART approval or anything? You can just go, I think it's on the Local Government Act. Why isn't that being considered now and worrying about an IPART determination after, or even just doing that?
Yeah, that is a stormwater charge, and that's $25. So it doesn't recover that amount of money. So we're still down $20 million, close to $20 million. So we'd still have to find a very significant amount of money. And given some of the challenges that we've got financially, even though we have been travelling, satisfactorily, some of the challenges we've got long term, that would have an adverse impact on our services and the things that we're able to deliver to our community.
So will with the public consultation, the community can be made aware of another option as opposed to an IPART, like doing a section 496A for now?
We can identify that we can do a 496A, but that will only raise a couple of $1 million. So
I understand, but you don't have to go to IPART to get that done either.
No, we don't need to go to IPART, and that's part of your fallback position is to do that. But we couldn't validly do a 496 and a drainage charge. You'd have to have one or another. But one is $150 that people are currently paying in part of the existing cost base of the council, and a $25 would be a 90% reduction in income in that space.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just questions through you to the CEO. One sort of fairly minor. In the report, we're referring to a special variation. Has the terminology changed for a special rate variation?
Well, we're going... No, the actual word is special variation. Strangely enough, it's just used as an SRV. Council do it, but we're using special variation because we're not actually asking to increase the rates. We're actually increasing what's known as a general income because we're seeking to move a charge across, and that charge isn't a rate. It's a strange situation, but I think it's a better description than saying we're putting your rates up, because we're not actually putting your rates up. What we're doing is putting a charge that you're currently paying on your water bill, or the proposal is putting a charge you're currently paying on your water bill, removing it from the water bill and putting it onto the rate bill.
All right. I find that a little bit misleading in the report. I'm not suggesting it's deliberate. I'm just saying it's misleading because I don't think it is clear that it's an additional charge on top of the rates. And, the terminology prior to this report, I understood was always special rate variation, but happy to just...
IPART use the term SV.
Okay.
In all their jargon, they use the term special variation.
Okay, my second point, or my second question is, I did read the report, but it's just not clear to me the exact time frame. So it says we need to notify IPART by 28th of November. Is there a reason why we aren't, are we doing it before then, and then what's the period of community consultation?
We'll be doing our community consultation during November, across
During
November.
Okay.
We'll wrap that up well and truly before December, collate that, provide that information, put that back into a report, so that when council, it won't be able to be got to the December meeting. That's the challenge, because we're meeting on the 10th of December.
Okay,
So-
all right. Okay, and just my last point is about the community consultation. Could I, is it possible, and maybe it's already intended, to really articulate for the community what this money gets spent on? I know it says stormwater drainage charge, and I have a concept in my mind of what that is, and a bit of it's in the report. But can we really say, well, this is how much we had last year, and these are the things that got done, just to be clear why we're even asking the community
Sure.
to approve this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've started to work on some of the collateral so that we can make it as clear as possible to what's being proposed, and in many ways try to ease the alarm, because essentially we're only asking people to pay the same amount of money that they have been paying.
Councillor Castles.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, probably to the CEO. One relates to the, if obviously this, you know, all goes through with IPART, etc., if we support it tonight, would be with the stormwater charge that would then be applied, or the proposal is that then would be applied to the rates notice. Would that mean that the full amount, I think you mentioned an amount of $150 or thereabouts, would that full amount, I guess, have to be paid in one hit, or would it go across the instalments of the rates? The reason I'm mentioning this is obviously because that does, obviously it impacts on people anyway, but it actually is spread out. Can you give me some advice on that, Mr CEO?
Yeah. As you'd be aware, in the water charge, it actually comes out as a quarterly charge. In the rates notice, you have the option to pay it all up front if you want to, and we have a group of people who like to pay all their rates up front, but you will also have that option to pay that on a quarterly basis. So in some ways, it's just, it'll be paid on the rates notice for those who want to on a quarterly basis, the same way as they pay it currently on a quarterly basis on the water notice.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. And the second thing is probably, well, it isn't related to this specifically, but is related to a matter that's in the motion before us, which is around that convening the ordinary meeting. I may have misheard, but I think that, through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO, you did mention there are at least a few very important matters that would ideally need to be dealt with, perhaps, you know, January, early February. Did I hear you say something to do with tenders, or have I misheard you there?
There's likely to be a significant tender matter coming forward on a reasonably important piece of sewer infrastructure.
Okay.
That is important that we get that done as soon as possible from an environmental protection perspective.
Okay.
And for a range of reasons, I don't really want to wait until February to let that contract.
Okay, so it's in relation to sewer is what you're indicating.
If you recall the West Gosford major sewer main that broke, this is the replacement of that.
Okay.
And it's gone out to tender, and the tenderers has asked, a number of the tenders have asked for an extension and to possibly deliver that under a slightly different methodology. We've given that extension. Therefore, we won't meet the December meeting. It may well mean that we get a less intrusive and potentially a cheaper project, but we don't know. But that would mean we'd have to either wait till February, and given the sensitivity of that particular main, which is broken a number of times, and the potential for environmental damage, we would like to get that done as soon as possible.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Neal.
Yes, just in the interest of full disclosure and transparency, I'd just like to say that in relation to the meeting at the Community Cabinet in April, that I certainly left the meeting with the expectation that upon advice being given by IPART as to the method, that we would be directed to a special avenue in relation to this levy, and that we wouldn't have to go through an SV. And certainly I was not aware until probably a month ago that that indication had changed. So I feel it's important that I disclose that. In relation to the meeting, one of the options that the council might want to consider is the possibility of having a meeting a couple of days before Christmas, because we can still have a video style meeting, and that would mean that not everyone would have to come in and disrupt their holidays if they're going away in January. Beg your pardon? No, but you can have a video. You can attend by video in late December. Anyway, I won't ask people to commit themselves now, but it's something that might be considered.
Done. All right. No more further. All those in favour? Thanks. Councillor Lamont, are you in favour, or Councillor Lamont, are you in favour or against?
Abstaining.
Sorry, I'm against.
Okay, so Councillor McKenna, Councillor Mullin, Councillor Daniels, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Wright, Councillor McNamara, Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Stanton's out the room, and against is Councillor Lamont. So the motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is item 7.6, South Africa Rugby Union Springboks Pre-Rugby World Cup Training Camp. Councillor McNamara, you move.
Move the recommendation.
Second, Councillor Mullin. Yep.
Hello. Yes, so South African rugby team, the Springbok, the world champions. Now, if you're not into rugby union, and I would say if you haven't been to South Africa during games, they are mad about rugby union and follow them everywhere and watch on TV everything they do. The opportunity to host this team and also another international team for a game at Polytech Stadium that will be streamed live around the world is going to be a great opportunity. It fits well into the economic development strategy coming and the major events that are coming. I just want to make a comment of, I suppose, clarification in the first point, that the funding of $240,000 is not cash out from council. It is mostly waiving fees for the hiring of the Polytech Stadium for the game and also the training facilities that they will have for the for the 2 weeks that they're here. There is another amount for marketing. But one of the issues that do follow Springbok around the world is many supporters, and it will be a great opportunity for Love Central Coast and also the marketing of all of the hotels in the area. A great opportunity for economic benefit. I note the report does give economic benefit based on 20,000 or selling out the stadium of over $1.5 million to the community of the Central Coast. So as I say, even though it says funding of $240,000 in the year 27-28 budget, Most of that is waiving of the fees for Polytech Stadium and the training. So the motion will be that there is a public notice that's required for this type of event, and then a report will come back to council for final resolution. Thank you very much.
Councillor Castles.
I just have a question, if that's okay to do that now, Mr Mayor. Not sure through to who, so I'll go through to the CEO. I note that with this 7.6, there is a paragraph on there that says that council is required to sign an agreement to host the pre-Rugby World Cup training camp and international friendly by the 30th of October 2025. Well, clearly that's only in a couple of days' time. And I just would like a little bit of detail, if we could have that, about what does that agreement actually encompass at this stage, sort of in the game, so to speak.
Through you, Mr Chair. So the agreement that we're required to sign by the 30th of October is a preliminary agreement to host. The details will then be further negotiated and a final agreement will be brought back to council for endorsement.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to thank the staff in relation to this matter. Many have been critical of council previously for not seizing on the opportunities around sports tourism. We've recently discussed the importance of the Tuggerah Sporting Precinct moving forward, and I hope that with these type of events coming to the coast, we can fast track the stage 2 of the Tuggerah Sporting Precinct. It's a great opportunity to promote sports tourism here on the Central Coast more proactively, and I thank the staff for finding this opportunity and moving it forward.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I'm very supportive of this, but I did just have a question about if this proceeds, does it have an impact on local sports organisations, and how do we manage that? Are they conversations that we would be having early in the piece if that was the case?
Through the chair, can I just clarify, are you talking in regards to the facilities not being available for that 2-week period?
Yeah, I am. I know it's not a long period, and that's why I am very supportive of it, but I just want to make sure that we cover that issue early and, you know, in very good consultation, or is it in a period where there's just not an issue? Thank you.
In regards to having those 2 facilities booked out or sort of offline for the 2 weeks, I don't imagine that would have significant impact on local sporting groups, because these are the 2 that are sort of used for regional and statewide events, and they would be booked into the calendar way ahead of schedule, so I'm not sure.
If I could just clarify, Tuggerah Regional Sports doesn't have regular local sport played at it. It's designed as a specialist event facility. So during COVID, we had the New Zealand Warriors there and a range of other organisations. So it's really designed as a special events piece, and that's one of the reasons why we keep that available, so we can host events like that at Tuggerah Regional Sports.
Any other, Councillor McNamara?
No, just to finish off, what a great job that staff are doing. We have the Matildas coming here at the end of November. We have, hopefully, as you see in the report, again, the Springbok coming back here at in September 26, and then this particular event for the 2 weeks in September 27. All good for the staff, and I would encourage you to go out and find more. It's certainly going to sit well in the economic development strategy and the major events. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, 7.7, annual disclosures of interest returns.
moved as a bulk item? Councillor Castle's put it back in.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Yep. That's good. 7.9. 7.9, community events and place activation grant programme. I think we might have a...
So who declared an interest?
Who's...
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move the report.
Sorry, can we just check to make sure that for each of these... Sorry, can we check for this, that everybody who declared an interest is leaving? So if we can just provide some time? No one? Councillor Daniels, I think. No, we're at 7.9. 7.9 and 7.1, okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
All right, so we can
Yeah,
just
can I
wait
have a
till they
seconder?
leave.
Seconder, Councillor Neil, thank you.
Well, let's just make till the door shut. Okay.
I'd
Neil,
like
you
to
go.
move a amendment to the original motion. I think the staff have got the amendment ready to load up. I'll just speak to the amendment while it's getting loaded.
We've got a seconder by Councillor Neil. Yeah.
Just while we're waiting it to load, the amendment will be the allocation of future events, development and support grants be considered first by the Community and Culture Committee. Tonight, our council will allocate $300,000 to successful grant applicants for this program and another $300,000 in the next item tonight as part of the Community Support Grant Program. The Community Events and Place Activation Grant Program aims to support local organisations to deliver community events and activities that activate space and places to complement activity around our town centres, foreshores, lakes and open spaces for families, community and visitors. With that in mind, it's prudent for councillors to ensure that allocations related to this grant pool are clearly aligned with council's community strategic plan and other strategic planning documents.
Just waiting for that to go on, Councillor McGregor. Right. Councillor McGregor.
Notwithstanding the addendum, which was a little bit unexpected, I was going to seek to move a procedural motion to do 7.9, 7.10 and 7.11 in seriatim, seeing as that they're all to do with grants and I wasn't anticipating any changes, but obviously we've got the addendum here. Is there any objection to that? Because if there isn't any objection to doing them together, then I'd like to move that procedural motion.
We've got a problem with people. Who else is going out? So there's...
We did make some attempts at semi-efficiency tonight, but I'll withdraw and we can continue to labour over this for the next 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Look, I will speak briefly just to Councillor Mullen's amendment. I actually would support that only because I think, as you pointed out, this is a lot of money and I think it's important that the councillors do get an opportunity to go through these in detail and ask questions, particularly not just for those that are receiving money, but for those that aren't. One, particularly for me, I noticed was the Electrified Budai Group, which it was noted that it doesn't meet the needs of the broader community, but having met with that organisation, I do think that is actually quite a good project, and I know Councillor Neil and others have recently brought those groups in to meet with them. So rather than being on the floor of council and saying, well, how do we incorporate those, which means items go on the business paper, groups then feel like they're being sort of semi-promised money, it then goes. I think if we can just workshop these in advance, that will be quite a good process. And I think the opportunity there for us as well is, if someone has missed out on money, how can we look at other grants? I know in Gosford East Ward, for example, Councillor Walsh and I have both been good, and the Mayor, of course, with, sort of saying, maybe there's this state government grant, maybe there's this federal grant. So I think that's a good process. Happy with that.
Councillor Smith.
Mr Mayor, just a question through you to the CEO. I was just wondering if the CEO or relevant staff could just outline the process of assessing the grants and bringing them to council. I asked that question because I'm not sure if the intention of Councillor Moreland is that this committee then assesses the grants and reads all the grant applications and does the scoring. So could I just get some clarity about the process, please?
Through the chair, it's quite an extensive process, as you can imagine, a huge volume of applications. There's criteria that they get evaluated against and weighted scoring. And then we look at the bucket of money and how that actually gets divided up. So some of them might get partial payment, some of them might get full payment. So it's the guidelines for assessment are quite sort of extensive.
No, you go. Oh.
Could I then just clarify through you, Mr Mayor, to Councillor Moreland, how would the committee then add value to that process or insert itself into that process? Like what is your understanding of what it is you want the committee to do? Just pick favourites or not pick favourites, or what are you thinking?
Well, it was definitely not pick favourites, and I'm not sure what you're trying to get at there, but I'd like to make sure that funding is allocated to our strategic intent. I think all councillors should have the same passion, to be honest. I'm sure all the projects that have been nominated for funding are worthy applications, but as councillors, we see the type of money that comes through the council chamber and that we allocate to community groups and for events. I'd like to see a little bit more strategic intent. So I'd like to see, I don't want to be part of the assessment program, but I think the subcommittee could ask some questions and get a better understanding what we want to do with these grants moving forward and what type of grants that we believe should be allocated as part of our community strategic plan, other planning documents.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm concerned about this intervention. I mean, I think all of that can happen in this chamber if that is the concern. I think grants programs at all levels of government often are considered an important probity matter, that there needs to be clear process, clear arm's length in terms of assessment. And yes, council has a role in improving those grants and asking relevant questions, but I just am concerned about the level that is being suggested here. But that's my 2 bobs worth. Thanks.
Councillor Castles.
Yes. Look, I have to say that I think it's really important that these do come through to council. I know full council. I know that if they go through a committee, in the end, they would come through to council. I have to say that my understanding of these is not only, if you just see a list, it's very easy to go, oh, well, what does that mean? Insufficient information. But there is more detailed information if you look deeper into the reports about why an organisation may not be granted, may have not been successful. And I think it's also apparent that if you read that information, if an organisation has not been successful, very often what you actually see is they are given advice by the grants officer, etc., about where other grants would be available. I have to say, I believe that we have to have some faith in our council officers that they know what they're doing. This is their level of expertise. Didn't say we shouldn't question things, but the fact of the matter is, I actually think that if we read through the detail, which I myself do, you can actually see very easily what has actually been done to assist people, etc. And I think those are the sorts of things we could ask a question on, rather than look at a list and go, hang on, why, well, ineligible, what does that mean? Because you can see what it means if you read further into the report. I have to say I am not in favour, as much as I love looking at all this sort of stuff, you know, being the chair of community and culture, plus my background anyway of many years in the community services sector. I do not see the need of us to get bogged down in the operational work of the council in relation to these grants. Thank you.
Councillor Neal.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, bearing in mind my voice, I think it is important that these matters are decided at a council meeting. I think we'll have the situation where a group of members of the committee go through this and then it's re-debated here, and that all the things that Councillor Wright suggested could be done at a subcommittee can be done here. That is exactly what I did. I went through it all in detail, spoke to the director, particularly in relation to electrified Budai, that I think is a very worthwhile and a group that does provide a lot of community support. And through that process, I was able to provide advice to them about how they could better craft their applications for the future. I don't think we need to have the matter go both to the committee and to the council in order for that process to take place in that sort of considered way.
Thanks, Councillor Neal. Councillor Milland, you're going to close?
I'll close, Mr. Mayor. Just to reconfirm, the intent is to make sure that strategic alignment is there. We're giving out lots of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we need to make sure that the grants that we're providing to applicants are aligned with council's strategic intent. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. And just clearing for the staff, it was Councillor Milland moved it and Councillor Neal, you weren't sure what the amendment was, so Councillor Wright was the seconder. Right, okay.
So Councillor Wright will be the seconder.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Milland and seconded by Councillor Wright for the adjustment. All those in favour? Councillor McKenna, Councillor Milland, Councillor Eaton, Councillor Wright, Councillor Martin Amara, Councillor McQuaid. All those against? Councillor McGregor, Councillor Castles, Councillor Crowley, Councillor Walsh, Councillor Neal, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lamont. It's lost. No. Yeah, it was. So.
That was. It wasn't moved as an amendment. That was the original motion. So you don't.
I seconded the original motion, which was a recommendation from the officers. Councillor Moreland then moved an amendment. I did not accept that amendment. The Mayor then just put the amendment. The amendment was lost, and I'm seeking for the Mayor to put the substantive motion as not amended.
No, the Mayor couldn't understand you. You keep taking the piss out of my accent. I don't understand you tonight.
Look, I think we can work the way through it, but as I understand it, what happened was Councillor Moreland moved something and you seconded it, not realising, you didn't realise he was going to add that additional. He unfortunately used the term amendment incorrectly. He should have said, I want to move a motion that is different from the original, that differs.
No, that's not what
wasn't
happened.
an amendment.
No,
because
Moreland wasn't the original mover.
Who was the original mover?
I don't know. But
No,
he then piped up and said, I have an amendment. That means he wasn't the original mover.
Yeah, I believe what we should do is you have a motion that has lost, and now somebody given, unless we want to leave these people hanging, we should recommit something. Sorry, Councillor Neal.
The recommendation.
Sorry, just for the people at home, could Councillor Neal turn her microphone off and you just say that again?
Can you?
Councillor Neal, could you turn your microphone off?
Push the button. It didn't turn off.
I might need your assistance, Mr. CEO, but I will move to recommit the item with the original recommendation, please. If I have a seconder.
Seconder, Councillor Miller.
Thank you. Can we just go to a vote?
Yeah. All those in favour of the original motion?
Yeah. The original motion. The one in the business paper.
Original.
Yeah. No. Not the original motion, the original recommendation.
Original recommendation. Yes. All those in favour of the original recommendation? Unanimous. Carried.
Okay, 7.1.
7.1. So who has to leave the room and
Who has to come?
and who has to come back in?
Councillor Daniels, I think, has to stay out on 7.1.
Yeah. Councillor Stanton. Yes, Councillors.
Does Councillor Stanton come back in for 7.1?
7.10, Daniels and Smith.
Right. So Dan. Yeah. So Smith's just left.
Stanton comes back.
Yeah.
We're at 7.1.
Depends on who's coming out and who's going in. Councillor Walsh is only for one.
Yeah, I'm happy to move both together.
Okay, item 7.10, Community Development Grants, 2025-26. Councillor Wright, are you moving?
Yeah, I do agree with Councillor McGregor.
Now can we do it?
Can we move both of these together? Items 7.10 and 7.11. I'm sure these will go through as listed.
No, we
No,
can't.
because Councillor Daniels is out of the room and she's entitled to vote on
Okay,
7.1.
well, in
That's
that, with
what we
that
said
regard,
before.
can I please move item 7.10?
Can I have a second on? Councillor McNamara. Any discussion?
I'm just leaving the red light on until you actually recognise my
Councillor Neal.
seconding.
Oh, she's put it on.
Just commit it.
Yeah. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
7.11. We need to get Councillor Daniels.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Daniels and Castles.
So Councillor Castles, are you leaving for this one?
You're staying in.
All right. Okay.
But we need Councillor Daniels back.
Councillor Daniels is back.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Smith, did you get a hold of her? Councillor Eaton's gone. Is Councillor Smith?
Miss.
Okay. Item 7.11, Community Grant Support Programme, August 2025. Can I have a mover? Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Stanton.
No, I was on there. You,
No, we'll change that.
I've been
Change
yelling
that.
out, I've been pushing my button, and you're just looking that way. I seconded that.
I've no idea what you're saying, but Councillor Neal, you can move it.
Thank you.
And Councillor Stanton, we're going the girls. Any debate? No. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, let's get them all back in.
Yeah, everybody back in. Yeah. Notice of motion, item 8.1, enacting a memorial for Luca Bennett at North Avoca. Councillor Wright, moving. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Stanton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I still remember very clearly the 24th of December last year. I was playing golf, as you do, with my family on Christmas Eve when I got a notification on my phone that a young boy had tragically been swept into the water at North Avoca, and it reminded me very much of my own childhood swimming just across the beach at Avoca Beach. And that was, wow. And that was unfortunately Luca Bennett, a much loved man in the North Avoca community who ended up losing his life in the water. He was one of over 350 Australians who lost their lives in waterways across Australia last beach season. Since that time, I think the community has been in shock. It's still a situation that rests heavy on the hearts of many in the North Avoca community. And I know on the 24th of each month, not just December, that community gathers on the foreshore at North Avoca together as a community to mourn the loss of one of their own who was taken far too young. I want to start by saying that I do commend the work of Director Melanie Smith, who met with myself and Michelle and Jason Bennett, the parents of Luca, in August. This has been quite a lengthy process, navigating all the processes within council to come to the stage where we can actually work together with Luca's family to put together a memorial that would be permanent at North Avoca near the rock platform. And I think that's very important. I know council, to their credit as well, through Director Smith's team, was very quick to act following the incident, increasing signage, adding life rings, and I think that was very good. And I think it's a commendation of what council can do. And I think it's important as we head to the 1-year anniversary of that tragic incident that we provide that opportunity for the North Avoca community, Luca's family, his close friends, his schoolmates, and the people who loved him so dearly to gather with an appropriate memorial. Again, I want to thank the staff for being open to navigating the appropriate processes to make this happen. I think that's very important, and it's a lesson for us all that often if you keep persisting in this building, you can often get to great things. And I think what this will do is again provide much needed comfort to those who have lost someone who meant so much to them. And the process is on now as we head to the end of October to ensure that we have that memorial in place before Christmas Eve. It's going to be a tough Christmas period for that family. The least we can do is provide them with a memorial that they can gather at on the 24th of each month and indeed Christmas Eve each year. And I think it's incumbent on all of us councillors and indeed the council staff and other levels of government to think about what we can do more broadly to ensure that incidents like these never happen again. As I said, over 350 people drowned in Australian waterways last year, and surprisingly, only about a third to a quarter of those were in beaches. So it can be anything from the backyard swimming pool to creeks, lagoons and dams. So it's something that we all definitely need to think about, particularly as we head into the summer, about what we can all do to help protect those around us, because when tragedy strikes, it's just tragic on the whole community. And I particularly want to call out Michelle and Jason, the parents of Luca, who have just been absolutely fantastic throughout this whole process. I remember so clearly standing on the foreshore with them and Director Smith, and was very inspired to hear that even in the face of unimaginable grief, these two parents were supporting other families, like the family of Audrey Griffin, who had also lost a child of their own. And I think that speaks exactly to the spirit of the Central Coast, that ability to get around our fellow coasties in times of need and show that support is truly remarkable. And I think what we don't want to do is be here this time next year putting in similar memorials. So again, it's so important that all of us as councillors, as an elected group, council staff, and just members of the community as well, do what we can to protect those around us. For those like myself, we go to the beach most days when we see behaviour that isn't quite right, and things don't look quite the way they should. Being comfortable, obviously politely, but to step in and show our support for those who might need it, because it really could just save someone's life. And I think this memorial is going to be so important for that North Avoca community this year as they reflect on their own safety efforts and honour the life of a young man who was really taken far too young. A man with such a bright future ahead who meant so much to the Central Coast community, and I think we saw that as well with the organisations as well who got around him and his family during that time of need. A GoFundMe page with tens of thousands of dollars of people donating. I believe the Terrigal Basketball Stadium as well provided a food drive for the family and those around them, including the extended family. So again, I think this is a great outcome and something that will really provide a lot of closure to a family and a community that has lost so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wright. Councillor Stanton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to briefly speak in support of this motion as well. Obviously, this was an extreme tragedy for the family and the whole of the Central Coast. And going into the summer season, it's really important that we acknowledge beach safety measures that the council has done and will continue to do, and encourage the public to be as safe as possible. I really commend the staff for getting behind this motion as well and supporting this plaque to honour this young boy.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Next notice of motion 8.2, notice of motion Hunter Central Coast Regional Planning Panel. Councillor Castles.
Yes, thank you. I did send through a slightly amended version. Here it is. So I'd like to move the motion, which is in relation to the Hunter Central Coast Regional Planning Panel. My motion is basically I guess, an ongoing motion based on answers I had to a question with notice at last meeting. So the motion is, as you can see on the board, that requesting the Chief Executive Officer to action the following no later than 9th of December council meeting, and then you've got the three parts there. But obviously at the moment we probably need somebody else if we're going to go any further with it.
Yeah, can I have a seconder, Councillor Walsh? Thank you.
Thank you. So I will just very briefly speak to it. One of the rationales behind doing this is because I have found that had been quite difficult, to say the least, for people to actually be able to find where the agendas, minutes, etc. are, and the determinations. And I think in the interest of transparency, it's very important because, as we know, and I know it's been mentioned tonight, we do have councillors, both delegates and alternates, if you like, who are involved with the planning panel. So again, for us as a council to be aware of decisions that are being made, what's happening with this very important level of, decision making, which directly impacts on the Central Coast, is important that we make it as easy as possible for people to actually be able to, access, and that we ourselves can easily say to people, well, look, here's the link, so that they can actually find where they can go to on our council webpage, etc. So I move that motion, and I hope to get support from everybody here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, can I speak to that motion? As I said.
You go first, Councillor Lamont.
Okay. So just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Environment and Planning. With the assessment reports that Council prepares for any DAs that go to the panel, is Council actually able to receive those assessment reports? Like, I know there was a DA that was being approved or assessed today, determined, whatever you want to call it, before the panel today on a seawall at the entrance north. it would have been great if councillors here had have actually seen that assessment report. And I know there've been others. I know there's another, there's at least one more that I think is coming up. And there's also obviously the WPA Seawall DAs, which I think is still a work in progress, the assessment reports. And I mean, I'm only aware of DAs for coastal protection, but I'm quite sure there's other stuff that goes to the panel. And I think it would be good if we could actually be provided with a copy of those assessment reports after they are provided to the Secretariat. And I was just wondering if that was possible.
Through CEO, Councillor, we don't run the regional panels. We provide assessment reports into the Department of Planning's process, and they then make them available in some form as part of the ability to sort of provide feedback to the regional panel. I don't think we can provide them separately, but I will check the arrangements for the regional panel and see if we can provide those to councils outside the panel process.
Okay, so I haven't been able to find the procedures or the manual for the Hunter Regional Panel, but certainly the Sydney Regional Panel procedures, which I assume all the regional panels operate with the same procedures. There's a section in there, and I think it's 11.13, which basically says council representations of the planning panel. An elected council may make a submission on a DA within their LGA that is to be determined by a panel up to 7 days before the panel meeting. After the assessment report is sent to the Secretariat, it may be given to the elected council to assist in its decision as to whether it will be making a submission to the panel. Now, I'm assuming that's the same for all regional panels. It is in the Sydney Regional Panel procedures. I can forward that to you to have a look if you like, but I've always been under the impression the assessment reports can go to council and council can choose if they wish to make a submission on the panel, on the DA. And I just think that that would provide us with an opportunity to sort of know what was actually going to the panel as well.
Through you, CEO, Councillor, yeah, I believe the same arrangement occurs in the regional panel that applies to us.
So are we able to see the assessment reports as they're being sent to the Secretariat in that case?
Councillor, as I said before, I'll look into it and I'll find out if there's an opportunity for that, and I'll have to come back to council with how it would fit because we don't run the panel, but I will check that out to see if there's an opportunity for us to do that and when you would do that. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councillor McNamara.
Yeah, a point of clarification through you, Mayor, to the CEO. I think it was about a month ago, I thought I heard an announcement from the Minister for Planning that he was going to be dissolving all of these planning panels. Don't know if it includes what we're talking about here or whether it was regional or local. Have anyone heard any updates?
Councillor, it was there was legislation that went through Parliament that was a range of planning reforms, and as part of the planning reforms there was the removal of the regional planning panels, that layer of the panel process, but we're really unclear exactly how or when that's going to happen yet, but definitely there is an intent from the government to remove the regional panels at some stage.
Councillor Smith.
No, I think it was the same question, Mr. Mayor. I think the legislation has still got a couple of weeks to go. I don't think it quite get through.
Councillor Castles.
Oh, yes. I think regardless, we're not clear at this stage if exactly what is going to happen with the new planning regulations. So I think that it's important that we move ahead with this particular motion because at the moment this is the situation. Obviously, if something changes later, officially changes, then obviously I guess that can be reviewed at that time and perhaps, we can look at a different way that we might provide a link, information, whatever, for whatever takes its place, if it does take its place. So I just leave that there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Castles. Councillor Somebody disappeared. No further questions? All those in favour? Unanimous. Last item on the agenda tonight is 8.3, notice of motion request for report on use and impact of chemicals in Tascott and Brisbane Water Region. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I rise in support of my notice of motion, which I've submitted. This notice of motion derives from a meeting that I had on the 19th of the 6th of this year, shortly before the National Local Government Conference in Canberra. I met with a man called Patrick Fry, who's an industrial chemist who specialises in analysis and monitoring, and has been qualified and working since 1981, initially in the UK, graduating with credit and honours at university. The chemicals in question that he raised with me are three chemicals in particular: Esplanade, I think I've pronounced that right, Metamax 600 and glyphosate, which many here will be quite familiar with as one of the most common weed killers used around the world. So basically, Mr. Fry put it to me that Transport for New South Wales, potentially council and other actors, have been spraying these chemicals around the Tascott area, and he has noticed and recorded an impact on the area, loss of life, impact on species and local vegetation as well as animals. This goes back to at least 2024, potentially beforehand. The documents which I have here that he's provided me refer to multiple instances where either Transport for New South Wales or council has applied these chemicals in the region. The impacts which he's included at the rear of this, and also raised with Liesl Tesh and Gordon Reid's office, as well as Minister Halen when she was the minister, obviously not the minister anymore, show the impacts there. So if we look through the safe work method statements and the material safety data sheets, you'll note that Metamax 600 is semi-permanent in soil, and Esplanade is permanent in the soil, meaning that once it goes in, you cannot get rid of it. There has been a definitive impact on birds, on land, also with the aquatic life. So if we go through some of these documents here, in reference to Esplanade SC500 herbicide, and this is in the material safety data sheet, it says, do not make application to natural or man-made bodies of water near lakes, reserves, ponds, streams, canals and ditches, including banks. Keep following buffers to protect those waterways, minimum 5 metres. Broadcasting applications could include railroad or roadside way usage. And Mr. Fry, as well as other residents there, believe that this 5 metre buffer zone may not have necessarily been in place the whole time, or in fact it may have been breached, meaning that these chemicals would then go into not only the soil on the land there, but also into the sand and into the Brisbane water area, which then has significant impact potentially on the animals that are there, like the black swans, but also the oyster leases, which is a significant commercial operation in the area. And I would note that oysters in particular are susceptible to sucking in these chemicals, and there are noted impacts on that. So it also says explicitly, do not apply Esplanade SC500 on intertidal areas below any watermarks or where surface water is present. And those who know the area around Tascott train station would know that that is something that is to take into consideration there. Furthermore, it says, this product does not allow for biological dephosphation. Now look, I'm still, I'm an educated person, but my pronunciation is not great when it comes to all these different chemical substances. If you want to know what that is, in layman's terms, essentially, this affects how cells are formed, and it affects the, according to Google, the crucial biomechanical processes involving the addition of phosphate groups to any molecules, particularly cells. Why is this important? Because it affects things like human beings' bones, their teeth, their hair, or other animals as well. And it also affects eggs and shells, which are really important for a lot of the birds in the area, meaning that their shells are actually cracking and they're unable to continue to reproduce and perpetuate their own species because of potentially these chemicals or other chemicals that are used in the area. It also affects the ability of plants to photosynthesize. So it's affecting how biological organisms are taking in energy, which is obviously quite important to live, even in a low energy environment such as this one. Furthermore, referring back to the MSDS and the swims again, and this is in regards to Esplanade ASC 300, it says, this application should never be made in natural or man-made bodies of water. Obviously, there is water there and it could easily be affected. I know that I've run out of time, but if you give me about 30 seconds, I should be able to wrap up. There is also no known antidote if there is human exposure, and you should immediately report for emergency. So, councillors, if you look at the notice of motion, essentially it's asking for further information. It's asking for staff to report back on the application of these chemicals and the potential impacts. We do know from the science and from the documents themselves around using these that they can have significant impact if used incorrectly, and I would like to seek on behalf of the community to get assurances that this is not impacting on the area, the people, the animals in it, and particularly the oyster leases and the people that live in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McGregor, Mike Lamana.
Yeah, a clarification question to the CEO, Mayor. In your report, I think we said that we don't do glyphosate or something like that, but there was 3 chemicals discussed by Councillor McGregor. Do we know about the other 2, whether we use them or not?
I can't provide that information. I'm not sure whether Ms Smith is aware of it.
No one?
Look,
through your CEO, yeah, we've provided some information there that we've been able to pull together as an initial summary, Councillor. For the more detail, we'll have to do a bit more work for the report when we come back.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion?
Mr
Councillor
Mayor, you don't seem to have a seconder.
Seconder. Yep. Thanks, Councillor Walsh. No more discussion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. And I'd like to close the meeting at 9:31. Quickest meeting of the new council.